Hello. Alright, we are going to be doing the tier list of all the playable Tear Ring Saga characters since I just beat the game. Yeah, I found this on Tier List Maker. It's got all the playable characters, as far as I can tell, in alphabetical order. I'm going to do this based on when you recruit them. And I'm going to change these tiers real quick. Like, amazing, great, like, okay, bad, and then like atrocious, like awful. Yeah, this is just simple. Amazing, great, bad, okay, bad, good, awful. I feel like that's pretty good. Amazing is like, so basically how the tiers are gonna work. Oh, it's not showing. Hold up. Still not showing? Really? Oh, that's weird. Okay. So basically, amazing is like really good units, carry your run, always, pretty much always should use, really good, no issues with like, no issues whatsoever with like damage, and only maybe have like some, like, and if they only have like one downside or have something really good about them. Great is like staple units that you can use throughout the army, have very few flaws. Basically basically can just do a lot, but they can't like solo. Okay is just okay units. Like they're not bad. They're most of them are good. I'll put it as good. I'll move this as like good. Good is like they're like decent, but they usually have like a problem with them or something. Yeah, I'll say that. Good is like they have like they may have one or two issues, but if you like train them, they'll be good. Or like if you get lucky with level ups, they'll be really good. I think bad is just like units that aren't like, nah. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do it in letters because it's easier for me. It's easier for my brain because I feel like that's gonna send the wrong message. All right, I'll just do A B C D E B C D, and then how do I do this? In a row below, yeah. I'll just choose pink. Oh, that changes D. Well, F, and then F gets the pretty green color. Okay. Yeah, so S A B C D F. Okay. So I'm gonna go in order of when you recruit them. So like this is just like being like S is really good. S is like what carries your run. A is like basically staple. You use them for a lot of fights, but they can't like just solo maps. B is good units. They're just good, generally in good. They might have some flaws, but they're just good. C is has flaws or needs like really good level ups to be like amazing, but like they're still serviceable and you can use them. D and F are basically like bad units. Tear Ring Saga has very few of these, but they still got some stinkers. So, in my opinion, let's start off with the first boy you get. Let's do this song actually. So let's start off with the first one, which is Runan. Where's Runan? Okay, Runan. Runan is, I'd say he's B tier. Runan's okay. Runan's okay. He's not. He starts off pretty decent base stat wise, and I think he starts off with Urbanite as his only skill, which is pretty good. Makes it so that in most indoor maps and castles he gets +1 movement, and he gets +10 hit and void. His promotion, Runan's promotion is, even though he doesn't get a new weapon type, it's really good. Gives him a lot of good, gives him a lot of stats, and he gets, I think, charisma. I don't exactly remember, but my Runan turned out really good, so he kind of like carried me during the late game. But I feel like if you get unlucky with Runan, he might not do so hot. But overall, I think he's decent. I don't think he carries your run. He does. He is required for the ending, so you can't ever lose him, because if you do, it's game over. And he is one of the 4 characters required to beat the game. Because he has the Agni Astra, which you need to kill the final boss. So a trained Runan will help immensely. So I think he's B. I don't think he's any lower than B. He does sometimes lag behind in outdoor maps because of his lowish movement, but most of the time you have to seize with him, so that's not really an issue. And like there's not really many maps that you have to go super quick, and the ones that you do, you don't need Runan for those specifically. You don't have a really fast map that you have to seize. Most of the maps where you want to go fast, the 2 maps I can think of is like you want to chase after enemies, and Runan will never catch up to them anyway, so you use your flyers or mounted units, and then there's the Ernst chapter, but that's a kill boss chapter, that's not a seize, so yeah, he's B. Whole rant about that. And then we have Arcus and Christ. I'll start with Arcus first. Arcus is in D. He's not very good. Arcus has a lot of problems. His positives are he starts off as a Cavalier, which is a good class. So he has a lot of move. I think when he promotes, he gets... What is his promotion? Hold on, I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna also look up another... You're gonna see this, but... Actually, I'm gonna move this to a new window. Okay, yeah, it doesn't show up. I probably should have done that originally, but, you know, just so I'm like correct in like my things. I should have brought this up earlier. Very professional tier list right here, the most professional tier list. So yeah, Arcus. Just so I know what skills he gets. So Arcus, he starts off as a Cavalier, is pretty good. He promotes into a Commando Knight, which is Bronze Paladin, which is decent. It's not great. It's not a great promotion. The problems with Arcus, so like he promotes into a Paladin, so like that's pretty good decent class outdoors. It's not great indoors because you have to dismount and you can only use swords, but Arcus has a lot of problems. He joins with Christ, and he's the 2 starting Cavalier that most Fire Emblems have. The problem is Arcus focuses on speed, and having speed isn't that important, kind of. So having higher speed doesn't really matter that much because enemies are really slow in Tear Ring Saga. So more often than not, you're going to double unless you're weighing yourself down a lot or you have really low base speed. You're pretty much always going to double. And Christ, the Cavalier who focuses less on speed, has enough speed to double, so it's not like Arcus has something over him. And Arcus's other bases aren't great for his join time. He comes with okay HP, okay strength, good skill and agility, but the problem is Arcus's defense and weapon mastery especially. Defense is 4, which is alright, but like it's not that great. It makes his durability a little bit rough. But Arcus is stuck with a mastery of 3 early game. That is absolutely fucking atrocious. Arcus can't use Iron Lances until he gets a mastery level up. And that's not guaranteed. That could take like 5 levels. And so you're stuck using Slim Lances and Slim Swords. Which just are just not good. They're the worst weapons. So Arcus is just gonna struggle with damage, and it's just he doesn't and like he doesn't have like amazing growth rates or skills to compensate that for it. His first skill is at level 16, which is lethality, which is a good skill, but like at least I'm pretty sure it's lethality. Yeah, that's the skill for lethality. Yeah, it's lethality. But that takes so long for him to get, like, that's just not worth it, honestly. So it's not that, like, and he's just not. He's probably one of the worst Cavaliers in the game. But I still put him in D because it, like, he's a Cavalier, and, like, if you put in the effort, you can get a decent unit out of him. I just feel like there's so many better units that it's not really worth it. Next is Kreis. I'm gonna put Kreis in C. Kreis has now. I will say something about Arcus real quick. Arcus does get Adept and Canto as well with skills. He gets them so late it doesn't matter. Basically all your units, as in my playthrough, unless you're grinding, will basically hit around 25 if you're using them extensively. Or like around 20-ish. He gets Adept at 25 and Canto at 38. He's never getting Canto by level up. And Adept is rarely going to happen with Arcus, so, like, he's only going to have lethality, and that's not great. And, hold on, let me go back real quick. Let me get Runon's skills real quick. Because I know he gets Draco. Runon also gets pretty good skills. Runon also gets really good skills. He gets Adept at 7 and Draco at 15, and those are really good combat skills. Draco is an amazing combat skill. Basically triples your damage. He also gets Nihil at 35, but that never matters because he's never going to get Nihil, so unless you grind, so yeah. Anyway, back to Kreis. Kreis, I think, is C tier. He's better than Arcus, but I don't think he's better by, like, a large majority. Kreis is the stronger, more defensive of the two Cavaliers, and that is much better than being the speedier of the two. He starts off with more HP, more strength. Like, Kreis beats Arcus in every stat except skill and agility. Every other stat Kreis beats him in. So Kreis is just a better Cavalier. Kreis also, unlike Arcus, has a mastery level of 5, which means he can both use Iron Lances and Javelins at base, which is really good. Iron Lances are basically your main way to damage things for, like, half the game, until you start getting access to Steel Lances and Pylums. And so, immediately, Arcus can make a contribution and he comes with a Javelin, so he can, like, throw Javelins, 1-2 range to, like, get some chip damage if you need it on a unit. And he can also hold his own, because he just has pretty good stats. His growth rates aren't, like, amazing, like Arcus's. Him and Arcus don't have amazing growth rates. And his speed growth is only 20%, but honestly, speed is such a non-issue in this game, he'll have enough speed to do decent. He also promotes into Bronze Paladin, which is not great, but, like, it's decent. His skill set, from what I can see, is basically kind of meh. His skill set is pretty bad. He gets Vantage at 19, which is really late for something like Vantage. Even though Vantage is good, it always lets you go first if you have more AS, attack speed. Getting it that late isn't great. And then he gets Luna at 25, which reasonably you could get that late game, so that's good. And then he gets Nihil at 37, which he's never going to get. So Nihil is just a non-point contender point. I will say what also detracts from him is not getting Canto. I mean, Arcus doesn't fucking get Canto until 38, so basically he doesn't have Canto either. Canto is pretty good. Obviously, it allows you to move again after do the rest of your movement after you do an attack. So he doesn't have that repositioning tool unless you use a Canto scroll. I'd say Kreis is basically like, if you put investment into him, he can turn out decent, and he is required to use for the Tenna event. So if you want Lieutenant, you have to use Christ. At least somewhat. I'd say he's a decent unit. He turns out decent. He's not anything like spectacular, and at points you might be he might like lack in something, but like I think he's a decent person to invest in, and he's not terrible. All right, so that's why I'm putting him in C. I don't think he's as good as Renan, but I don't think he's nearly as bad as Arcus. All right, next person is Garrow. Garrow's hard for me to rank. I think he's low C, high D. He's around the same as Arcus, honestly. Garrow is basically kind of like your mini Jagan for the game. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me scroll this back up again. Arcus is basically your mini Jagan. He is basically your Jagan. He starts off at a higher level than everyone else, and he starts off promoted. He starts off technically in a promoted class, because Pirate is considered a promoted class. But he is not that great. He's not technically the Jagan, but like he is kind of. Garrow has problems. Garrow's base stats are really good. He comes with insane bulk, 35 HP, 6 defense. He comes with good like 11 strength, 10 speed, and that's great. And he comes both with Adept and Sea Fighter. Sea Fighter is just, you get more movement and hit and avoid on ocean maps. There aren't many ocean maps you do on unless you go to the other route. So that's kind of useless for the early game. But Adept is nice, because you get to sometimes attack twice. The problems with Garrow come from his class and his weapon type. Garrow is stuck using axes, which axes are great in this game. They have a lot of uses. But the problem is they're very extremely inaccurate. Like, axes hit rates are like most, like on the Iron Axe it's like 60 or 50. And Garrow doesn't really have a good skill stat. He comes with base 4. And while his growth is decent at 25%, it's just he's gonna suffer from accuracy. He's gonna suffer from accuracy issues, which sucks, because you don't really want to mess with him. The other bad part about Garrow is he is stuck with 4 move for the entire game. That's never going to increase, which really fucking sucks. Having 4 move basically makes it so that you're basically is very restricting. It makes it so that it takes forever for you to get anywhere. And it's just like his high base stats don't really matter. Because Tear Ring Saga has such a low enemy quality for... Why did it click on that? Okay, weird. Because Tear Ring Saga has such low enemy quality, I just exited out of the whole thing. Motherfucker. Hold on. hold on. Ah, shit. Okay. Okay. Hold on. I'm grabbing it. Hold on, I'm grabbing it. Hold on, I think I got it back. Okay, I got it back. Cool. Okay, I got it back. Sorry, technical difficulties. This is high technical work here. Okay. So yeah, Garrow had the move is a huge problem. His higher stats don't really matter for like early game, because the enemy quality is so low. You don't really need his high stats to like deal with really tough enemies. So Garrow just kind of, and a lot of the first and almost all the first few chapters are outdoor. So, like, he just kind of falls behind and doesn't really get to contribute much. Now, Garo does get a lot of really cool skills. But he does learn a lot of really cool skills later, but he gets them so late that he's never going to get them. He gets them so late you're never gonna get them, because he gets Wrath, and his skills he gets are insane. Like, he gets Wrath, Life or Death, which is Wrath, and it's fucking broken as all hell in this game, because it's for every percentage of health you have missing, you get that in crit. So you can have like 100, so you can get 90% crit if you're missing 90% of your health. It's insane. He gets Charge, which is Flurry, which is basically you can do 2 to 5 rounds of combat depending on your attack speed. He gets Nihil, and he gets Lethality. But the problem is, he gets those at level 28 through 31, which you're never it's very hard for you to get a unit above 30 without grinding. It's very hard for you to get a unit above 25 without grinding in the arena or on monsters. And Garo's max level is 30 unless you use an occult scroll. Or 27, I forget which. But, like, if you don't use an occult scroll, which is a rare item that increases your level cap, you're never going to get those skills, or at least the last two. So in effect, it requires a lot of investment to get those skills, and in the end, he's not that great. I don't think he's as bad as Arcus though. But yeah, he's not great. And then we've got, okay, where's Sasha? Sasha? I think Sasha's in B. Yeah. Yeah, I think Sasha's in B. Sasha joins as a level 1 princess, which is a class unique to her, and an NPC character, non-playable character later. But Sasha is basically the training unit of this game. The princess class is considered is a like a training class from like the GBA games. It's very similar to it. Now, Sasha's base stats are horrendous. She's got 2 strength, 2 defense, 3 skill. Her only 18 HP, so her survivability is crap. Her only good stat and her mastery is better than Arcus's, actually, which is hilarious. But that's not what makes her. And her growth rates are decent. I wish her strength and defense weren't as bad as they are, but like they're decent. But the thing about Sasha is she, like, despite her bad start, she has some things unique to her. She does get Vantage at 8 and Paragon at 10 in the Princess class, which both of those are pretty good skills, especially early on. She comes in 8 with Charisma, which is not very good. It gives 3 hit and avoid to people in like a 3-foot tile radius. It's not good. It's kind of a throwaway skill. She gets Adept at 15, which is pretty good. But the most unique thing about Sasha is that through an event at Chapter 7, she gets access to at like Chapter 6. She gets access to a Pegasus Flute, which gives her the ability to promote into a Pegasus Knight. And which lets her use Levin swords, which makes her actually a pretty good combat unit. Because of how Tear Ring Saga works, a lot of enemies are very physically bulky, but magic bulk is non-existent in this game, pretty much. So she can actually do a lot of damage with Levin swords because of the +6 magic she gets from promoting, which boosts her magic to 8, and with the Levin sword she does 16 damage, which does deal with most generic enemies. 32 and she will almost always double because her speed is just... She has a 50% speed growth. She's gonna fucking double pretty much everything past a certain point. I will say she's not. I will say so because of her like high damage and it being magic based, and the fact that like she turns into the Pegasus Knight, which is a flyer with 7 move. She comes a B. Now I think she does have her downsides. Her bulk is pretty bad for the most part, and if you don't get if you don't get lucky with her, she can turn out like not very good or basically not worth it. But I think just because of the fact that she's a flyer that can deal consistent, that is not that hard to train. If she is she is hard to train. But like once you get her Paragon, she can quickly start ramping up. And as a Pegasus Knight, she can do crazy damage with 11 Sword. And plus, if you wanted her to get even more stats, you could just promote her again into Wyvern Knight. You'd lose the magic utility, but you'd also have a unit that just get but you'd also have it so where she gets basically +3 strength, +6 strength and defense. Yeah. She basically gets +7 HP, +6 strength, +6 defense, plus like a bunch of speed and skill. Like, if you just went based on just like if you just promoted her straight up twice, she'd have enough stats to just at least be decent throughout the entire game. So even if her growth rates aren't decent, you could still use, like, if you don't get lucky with the level ups, you can still use her and just promote her twice, and she'll turn into a decent unit. So that's why I put her in B. Because even if, like, you get unlucky with her, you can still get a decent unit out of her by just with a double promotion. So, yeah. The only bad thing about it is that, like, if you're going to promote her twice, you lose out on promoting one of the other 3 Pegasus Knights, because there's only 2 Dragon Flutes, which is really dumb, and I hate that. I hate that there's only 2 promotion items for Pegasus Knights, but there's 4 of them with Sasha, and it's just like, why? But yeah, anyway, I put her in B. She's pretty decent. Next is Kate. Where's Kate? Kate, C. Kate is C. Kate is Sasha's knight, and she joins in Chapter 1 along with the others. She's the last unit that joins in Chapter 1. Kate has some positives. Her base stats are pretty good for her join time. 6 strength, 8 skill, and speed. Those are really good. She comes with 6 mastery, 5 defense, so she's pretty bulky. She comes with a leather shield, so she actually has even more bulk. Her luck is pretty low, which kind of stinks, so her dodge chance isn't good, but her luck growth is decent. And she also comes with 2 skills. She comes as Adept, and she comes with Urbanite. Urbanite is, like, okay. It's good for indoor maps, but that's about it. It's good for some maps, and then Adept is a good skill. She gets Terra at 18, which is basically, like, a crit that ignores terrain, it's just basically a crit. I don't really get the whole ignoring terrain part, because there's no terrain that gives defense in this game. So, I don't really get the whole ignores terrain part, unless it, like... I don't understand. It's basically like a crit skill. It's whatever. And she gets Kanto at 20. No, she gets Kanto at 27, which you're never gonna get. So unless you grind. She does promote. The problems with Kate is that, like, her base movement is 4, which is really fucking sucks. Kate will struggle to get anywhere on most maps, and her growth rates aren't that great. Her growth rates are decent across the board, but there's nothing, like, outside of mastery and HP that's, like, really good. So she can, like, fall behind pretty easily in terms of stats. Now she can promote to when she does promote, she gets a horse, which is really good. The problem is her promotion gains are really fucking bad. She gets, like, +1, and, like, from what I can see, she gets +2 HP, +1 in 4 stats, and that's it. So her promotion gains are really bad as well. So I think just overall, she's not good, that great stat-wise. And not getting Kanto through a scroll also sucks for a mounted unit. I think the one good thing about her is that her base class is basically like her promoted class on foot, which is funny. So like when she like has to dismount, if she's promoted and has to dismount, she doesn't lose much in terms of stats because it's basically just being in her base class. But overall, I think Kate is decent if you train her. There is an event later where she does leave the army during the very last split, and then you have to get her back in one of the last three chapters, depending on what route she's on, and that can be difficult if you haven't trained her. But I didn't train her at all, and what I did was I just warped a mage next to her, and killed the two zombies that were attacking her, and it was basically fucking. They didn't like nothing. Like she wasn't in any danger because none of the other enemies target her as an ally. So yeah, she's all right. She's not like amazing. She's not like groundbreaking, but you can use her. Now next unit is the 4 you get from. Oh no, next is Raffin. Where's Raffin? All right, my boy Raffin. Raffin is an easy A tier. Raffin is easy A tier. Raffin is amazing. Is pretty fucking good. Raffin joins you as a pre-promoted paladin at chapter 2, and his base stats are in really good. His base stats are the best in your army. I think Garrow is the only one that rivals him in terms of base stats. Yeah, he comes with 27 HP, which is great. Comes with 8 HP, 8 strength, 8 skill, 7 speed, 7 defense. Comes with 9 mastery. He has 8 move. He comes base with Kanto at base, which is really good. Which basically means he can do hit and run strats where he can hit someone and then move out of the way so that your other units can get the kill. His growth rates are actually, surprisingly for a pre-promote, really good. He has some of the highest strength, skill, and HP growth out of your entire army. And his defense growth is also one of the highest in your army at 25%. Like, all of his growth rates are really good, too. Like, none of his growth rates are bad except for, like, luck. Which I think does hurt him late game. But, like, yeah, his growth rates are insane. He starts with Kanto. He gets Vantage at 17, which is late, but, he's gonna get that. I think you can reasonably get that, and Vantage helps him out with getting the jump on enemies before they can hurt him. He also gets Adept at 24, which is iffy if you're gonna get it, but if you use Raffin a lot, you could get it, and that'll just improve his combat ability even more. But for the most part, he's gonna have just Kanto and Vantage. Now, that alone would make Raffin good, right? Like, solid unit. But Raffin also uniquely has a unique promotion tied to an event that after map 10, if you agree to what another character asks you about a wyvern, he promotes into a wyvern knight, which further increases his offensive stats by 2. And he just turns into a much better combat unit. There's no reason to deny it unless you want a different ending for him. But, like, the fact that he promotes further and his space stats just always are decent makes him a really good combat unit and probably one of your best main combat units in Runon's route, or just any route you put him in. The only reason why I put him in A is because late game, he starts to fall off a bit because of his low luck. Because Avoid is tied to luck as well as speed, he starts to fall off because enemies start to actually hitting him, and damage can rack up very quickly on Raffin because of his lack of ability to dodge late game. But for the majority of the game, he's a really good unit, and I think really good unit that will basically do work, put in a lot of work. But I have to put him in A only because, like, late game, he starts to fall off just because not being able to dodge hurts when enemies start, like, actually hurting back late game. But yeah, I put him in A. And then we've got Esther. Let me see Esther's base stats real quick before I make a decision. Esther. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Esther. Yeah. Yeah, no. I say Esther. Yeah, no. Esther is in D. No, I'd say she's in C. Esther has problems. Esther is the potentially 4th Cavalier that joins you at this point by Chapter 2. And Esther's got some problems. She comes with Urbanite as well, so she's like the 4th unit to come with Urbanite. And she does get good skills later. She gets Wrath at 14, which is a really good skill. And she does get Paragon at 20, which she can get to. And then late game she gets Vantage at 28, which is she might not get to that. With Paragon it's possible, but like it's unlikely unless you feed her a lot of kills. The problem with Esther comes from her bases. Her bases are absolutely horrendous. She comes at level 2 with 4 in everything, except luck and mastery. Her luck is 5, her mastery is 3. And I don't have to tell you how much Arcus suffers from the low mastery. So she's basically relegated to Slim Lances and Slim Swords until she gets wait, I think she's only relegated to those. Are Iron Swords 3? Hold on. What's an Iron Sword? Does Christ have an Iron Sword? Oh my god, just load the thing, please. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to look real quick. Oh, you can use Iron Swords. Okay, so she can use Iron Swords along with Arcus. That's not great, but like, she can use them. Okay. So she's basically stuck with Iron Swords and Slim Lances until she gets Appointed Mastery, which could not take a long while. I think she's slightly better than Arcus only because like her skill set is better, and her promotion gains are actually good. Like her promotion gains are actually really good, unlike Arcus's and Crisis. Like she gets +3 and +4 in several stats because she promotes into a normal Silver Paladin, which is better than a Bronze Paladin, which is what these two are stuck on and what Raffen starts with. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Raffen is also A because he also is one of the few units indoors that can use Lances. So he has that utility for him. Actually, that might bump him up to S. Yeah, no, I think that bumps him up to S. I'm going to put Raffen in S. Just because of the... I forgot about, like, Lances indoors. I think the fact that Raffen is also one of the few units that can use Lances indoors, which almost no unit can, bumps him up to S. I think the low avoid thing isn't worth putting him below S, honestly. Is just a nitpick thing. But see, yeah, her base stats really hold her down, but I think she's better than Arcus only because her skill set actually is good, and she can reasonably get it, and her promotion gains are really good, so, like, you can early promote her with the Nightcrest and get a pretty decent unit out of it, at least for early mid-game. Now, of course, she'll fall off late game, unless she gets really good level ups, but I think she's like Christ and Kate. She's like decent if you get lucky and you level her up, but other than that, she's not amazing. All right, and now we've got the 4 units you have to pick from. Let's start with Lee. Lee is where's Lee? There's Lee. I think Lee is solid A tier. I think Lee is pretty good. Um, I Lee comes with really Lee is one of the 4 units you can pick in the early game from Count Marlin before chapter 2. You can only pick one of them at this stage, and Lee is a pretty good choice. Actually, a really good choice. He comes as the only recruitable bishop in the game, and he is also one of 2 units who can do combat and heal. He's only one of 2 playable units that can do damage and healing. So already he's got his own little niche that only him and another unit have, but the other unit is not meant for combat at all. So basically he's the only one that does combat with healing. Basically. The competent combat. We don't talk about Mel's combat. It's garbage. Anyway, he can use all magic types except light and dark, but you only get 1 light tome unless you get lucky with golems, and dark tomes are only on 1 character anyway, so it's whatever. He comes with fire tome, physic, and a normal heal. So immediately when you get him, you get a physic staff, which is really, really good. And his base stats are pretty fucking good. They'll basically carry him for majority of the game. Comes with 13 magic, 11 speed. His bulk is a little bit questionable at 25 HP, 3 defense, but it's fine for early game. And he comes with 12 mastery, so you can use basically any tome in the game, most tomes in the game, or basically all the early game tomes. He also has a unique thing where he has a unique event where if you get him this early, you get him early, like immediately, he gives a character the defense staff. Gives another character the defense staff, which halves all damage someone takes during a chapter, which is really good. He can't use it himself, but he can give it to another character so that they can use. So basically, it's kind of like, it's locked to him. It's locked to recruiting him. Now, Lee's stats are good enough to do damage throughout the majority of the game. Lee's, I'd say, one downside is that his growth rates are really bad. So Lee is basically going to be good early and mid-game for damage, but he's going to fall off hard and basically become a staff bot late game, which isn't bad. But the fact that he has such a good start, he gives the defense staff, and he does magic damage and heals, which is really nice, I think puts him in A tier at least. I think he doesn't go in S just because late game, he's not really going to be doing much in terms of combat. He's basically just going to be healing. And he doesn't have any exclusive staffs, nor can he summon. So he basically is just going to be a physic bot. Which is fine, but you already have a bunch of those by late game, so he doesn't really stand out. And his bulk is really bad late game, outside of magic, because he's not really going to gain any stats except maybe HP occasionally. Lee is also unique in this game as he is the only character who does not learn any skills by level up, nor has any skills innately. He has no skills, period, unless you give him scrolls. So his combat's not going to be unique. It's going to be use fire, use fireball, or use tome a couple times. But yeah, he's pretty good. I say if you there's no downside to picking him other than not getting the other character you don't pick. But yeah, he's a pretty good choice. All right, now we've got my favorite boy, Naren. Naren is an easy S tier along with Raffen. Naren completely breaks the game. Naren breaks the game in half. Naren will fucking carry you. That's how good Naren is. Naren is really weird. How the game words him is that he makes him seem like he's like an S character where his bases are really bad, but he has insane growth rates and turns into a god tier unit. Funnily enough, Naren is not really like that. Naren is not like that at all. Naren's base stats are pretty fucking good for his join time. He's straight up just better than Esther, who joins at the same time he does. Like, he has better bases than her in everything except skill and defense. And defense he ties, and skill he's 1 point less in. He starts with base 6 strength, base 5 speed, base 6 luck, base 5 mastery, which means he can use iron lances and javelins at base like Christ. And he has really good stats, and he starts with an iron sword. And he also starts with Paragon, which means his experience gains are just insane. So you don't even have to kill with him. You just can chip with him and he gets 30 experience for free. So he just will quickly level up. But those aren't... Now normally those would be... Okay, like, he's a decent unit, right? His growth rates are average. They're not anything spectacular. He does, strangely enough, have one of the highest strength growths in the game, and he has a pretty good defense growth, but other than that, his growth rates are decent, or average across the board. But that's not what stands out from Naren. Naren's promotion is the best in the game. Naren promotes into Gold Knight, the best class, or one of the best classes in the game, period. Naren gains, and I'm not joking, plus 8 HP, plus 6 strength, plus 7 skill and speed, and plus 5 or 4 defense. I can't tell from this promotion screen I'm looking at. His promotion gains are absolutely disgusting. He goes from like an okay combat unit to literally your best combat unit when he promotes. Or one of your like top 2 combat units. And this never changes. Because his growth rates are just decent enough that he'll keep like slowly climbing and keep outpacing everything. My Naren died at the last chapter because I got really unlucky. Because like everything just started having a lot of accuracy for some reason. But he just becomes your best combat unit. You can throw him into the middle of a group when he's promoted, and he'll just kill all of them for the majority of the game. Like, you can just do that. There's very few enemies that Naren cannot fight 1v1 and come out on top. I'd say the only ones are like Ernst, Julius, Barbarossa, and like Gerxel. But those 4 are the hardest bosses in the game. And I guess maybe like Nevka, but he's just insane. Now, and the game even he is the best target. Naren is the best target for the first Night Crest you get in the game, and the game even rewards you for promoting him early because you get an exclusive skill if he's level 12. If he's promoted and hits level 12, he gets lethality. If he is promoted and hits level 12, which adds to his combat even more because occasionally he'll just one-shot an enemy with a crit. Because lethality is weird. It's like if you can crit, it activates, but if you can't crit, it can't activate ever. It's really weird. But yeah, and he also gets Adept and Big Shield or Previce when he promotes as well. So he just becomes one of your best combat units by far. He makes the game so much easier. Some of the hardest maps just become much easier with Naren on the field. And he's just really good. I'd say his only downside is he's kind of bad. He's not as good when he indoor chapters, but like his stats are still so good. He's still one of your better units in indoor chapters. So overall, Naren is like easy S tier. I'd say Naren is one of the best units in Tear Ring Saga. Period. Like, there are very few units that like are on par with him. Like, Raffen is close, but Naren is just on a whole nother level. And then next we got Ezekiel. Let me look up Ezekiel, because I never got him, so I just want to see, in general, Ezekiel's stats, so I can kind of see what he's like. Okay. Okay. Alright. I'd say Ezekiel... Wait, what's his promotion? Okay, I'd say Ezekiel is, like, B. Ezekiel's decent. Yeah, I'd say he's B. Ezekiel is one of the soldiers you pick along with Naren and Lee. He's an axe soldier, and he is the only recruitable axe soldier in the game. Axe knight in the game. His base stats are pretty good. His bulk is actually really... Physical bulk is actually really good. So he has 7 HP and 7 defense. And it stays that way with his level ups. He's got a high defense growth and a high HP growth from what I can see. He comes with his own steel axe, which weighs him down a fuck ton. He basically has negative speed as long as he has the steel axe equipped, which really sucks. Which means he's never going to double, and like he will get doubled by some fasterish enemies. He comes with lethality and urbanite. Lethality is pretty good, but you need to have high skill to proc it, which I don't think he has. No, he has 6 skill and he has a 25% growth. That's decent. So he'll proc it occasionally. The only other skills he gets are terrain skills. He gets Mountain Fighter at 12, Plains Fighter at 18, and Frontier Fighter at 24. Frontier Fighter being super late. He's probably not going to get that, and by the time he gets it, it's too late at that point. All the Frontier maps are gone. But he's decent. He's also one of the few units like Raffin that can use lances indoors. Because when you promote him, he promotes to sergeant, which gets access to lances, swords, and axes. So he can use lances, and he's one of the few units that can use lances indoors. But I think what holds him back is his low speed starting off, so he's not as bulky as he seems. And I think that if you don't get lucky and get some speed, and he only has a 20% speed growth, so speed is always going to be a problem with him. And even though speed isn't that big an issue, with how heavy axes are, he may have issues getting doubled and just getting killed. So I don't want to put him in C because I feel like he's better than these units, especially when you promote him and how he can be useful for indoor chapters. Nah, I'd say plus he's required. Plus you need him to keep Latenna unless you do some glitches with like killing one of the characters in Christ or something. So yeah, I'd say he's decent. He's not anything spectacular, but like he's decent. He's usable. He has a niche and he does it well. Yeah, he's decent. The only problem is he's just worse than, like, outside of, like, being needed for the Latenna event, he's just like, a worse version of another character. And having to choose between him and the better version of him, you almost always want to choose a better version, so, like, it kind of sucks. You know what, I'll put him in C. He's not that great. He's in C. He's alright. He's not that great. I think he's better than Esther and Kate. But I don't think he's about equivalent to Arcus. I mean, Christ. Alright. Sorry, I gotta drink some water. Alright. Ruka. Or Luca is next. F. He's bad. He's one of the few bad units in Tear Ring Saga. Luca's just bad. He's your first recruitable archer, and he is the worst archer in the game by a pretty big margin. His base stats are really bad. His physical bulk is about equivalent to Sasha's. If you got, like, he has 19 HP, 2 defense. 0 magic. So in actuality, his bulk is just worse than Sasha's because she at least has magic. He doesn't. And his other base stats aren't good either. He has good his two good base stats are speed and mastery, which are 8 for speed and 6 for mastery. The rest of his base stats are awful. 4 strength, 5 skill. His skill is decent, actually, but 1 luck, 2 defense, 4 move. He's locked to 4 move, which really fucking sucks. Every other archer has at least some sort of terrain skill. He doesn't start with any skills. The first skill he actually gets is Flurry at 15, which is a pain in the ass to get him to because of how bad his stats start is. He also gets Adept at 30, which you are never fucking getting him to because you're not getting any units to 30 unless they have Paragon, or you use them a fuck ton. He does get Urbanite when he promotes, and his promotion is decent, but he's just never really gonna get there because his start is so bad. Now, his growth rates are good for some stats. His HP is not great, but his skill, speed, and luck are good. The problem is his strength is 25%, which isn't great, and his weapon mastery is also 25%. He's just the worst bow unit, and like none of the good bows he can use initially, and it's going to be a long fucking time until he can use them. And then by that point, you're just going to give them to the better units because they just start off better. He's just not good. Starting off in 4 strength also really fucking sucks because, like, with his growth rate, it's going to be a struggle to get him to a point in terms of strength where he can actually deal damage. Like, decent damage. Like, he'll double, sure, but, like, without any combat skills, it doesn't fucking matter if he can double or not, really, when his base strength is, like, 6 for a long time. So, yeah, he's just really bad. He's the worst archer in the game. There's no... And, like, the other thing is, like, picking him means you're not getting Ezekiel. You're not getting Lee. You're not getting Naren. So it's like you're basically shooting yourself in the fucking knee. You're basically shooting both your kneecaps off and saying, yep, I'm doing this. Now, he does have a unique event with a much better character that allows her to kill enemy units, but it's not worth fucking picking Luca just for that. It's not fucking worth it. He's F tier. He's the first, like, actually bad unit. He's not worth picking. So next we got the units you actually get in Chapter 2. Bart's a C. Bart's is okay. He starts off with pretty good base stats. Bart starts off with pretty good base stats. 9 strength and 10 speed is really good. 28 HP is great. 6 skill is alright. 5 defense is pretty good. 8 mastery is great. 5 move is good. He comes with Mountain Fighter, which gives him, which actually helps him in the map he joins in because it's a mountain map. So he actually gets +1 move. He actually has 6 move. An extra hit in the void. And does help him with some other maps later. Bart's is the first axe fighter you get. This is different from an axe soldier. Ezekiel is an axe soldier. He is an axe fighter. They promote to different things. I think axe fighter is a worse promotion, than sergeant, but I digress. The only other skill Bart's gets is he gets Flurry at 15, which if you're training Bart's, you're probably going to get. And Flurry is a really good skill, which will increase his combat really good. Bart's growth rates are... The problem with Bart's, his growth rates are bad. Outside of HP, strength, and speed, his growth rates are abysmal. None of them go above 20. In fact, most of them are 15 to 18. Like, majority of them are 15%. instead for defense, which is 18%. So his defense, he never gets more. His initial bulk wears off really quickly when he just has HP, and he'll have huge accuracy issues because 6 skill will not take you far past early game. Once you start hitting mid game, you'll start having very bad accuracy issues, and late game you're just not. Unless you're using, like, you're just gonna have accuracy issues out the wazoo. Now his promotion is decent into warrior, but unlike warriors in later Fire Emblem games, you don't get access to bows. You keep axes. So let me pull this up. So yeah, overall he's decent. He's good early game. He's good early game, and if you get lucky with those level ups, you can use him throughout the entire game. I just think I personally just think he falls off mid late game, and then there's just a better axe unit that's more consistently good that you can get that like has the monopoly on the good axes. So like, it's hard to give Bartz anything, but you can technically use him and give him like one of the other really good axes, and then have 2 really good axe users just swarm in the field. Because you do get the Brave Axe and the Dole Harkin, which is the one unique axe in the game. And you can give that to one of those to Bartz and have him go have fun. I think overall he's decent if you train him, but I don't think he's like amazing. And he's pretty good. He's still pretty good early game. Next we have Enta. Enta's B. Enta is like Runan. If she dies, it's a game over. And she is Runan's main healer if you don't get Lee. Unless you got Lee, in which case she's the second healer. For almost every single one of Runan's chapters, you have to field Enta. There's no, like, Enta is required to field, and if she dies, it's game over. She's just a staff bot. There's nothing else about her. She doesn't have any she doesn't get any combat spells. She doesn't do any combat ever. She gets summon at level 30, which you're never going to get, so that's basically null and void. She is one of the few healers. She is a healer that doesn't get summoned, which sucks, like Lee. But like summoning is really weird, and like I never really used it except for like a meme at one chapter, so like it's pretty pointless. So she's never going to have any skills. Overall, she's just a staff bot. She's decent. You keep her out of harm's way, spam physic or heals. She's basically meant to heal. She's basically there to heal Runan's army, and she does a pretty good job of it. She does leave for the final 3 chapters in Runan's route, which does stink. You do get a healer replacement at that point, but she's basically Runan's main healer. There's nothing much more to say about her. She does have plot significance, but other than that, she's just like, she's all right. I won't say she's C because she is pretty. If you don't take Lee, she's basically your only competent healer for a long time. On Runan's route, like, you're not going to get another one until like chapter 25, so she's pretty good. Now Julia. Julia is C. Julia's alright. Julia's the first Myrmidon you get. And she fits the archetype to a T, basically. She focuses more on speed and luck. She focuses on speed and luck mainly. She focuses on speed and luck. Overall, and her speed and luck stats are actually, well, her skill and luck are basically really high. Her base bulk isn't great. Her base strength isn't that great. But she does come with a killing edge and a scimitar The Killing Edge is really good. The Scimitar is kind of bad, but they're decent weapons. Her growth rates and skill and speed are really good. She focuses on those a lot. Her HP growth isn't actually that bad. 50% is decent. Her mastery growth is, she starts at 8 mastery. She has a good mastery growth, so she'll have access to the higher end swords if you train her. I think what Julia suffers from, and before I talk about the downsides, she does have also a really good skill set. She gets Adept at 8, which is good. Adept is a good combat skill. She gets Draco at 15, which is another really awesome combat skill. Oh, she gets Draco at 18, my bad. Not 15, 18. Which is another really good combat skill. It's basically the same combat set that Brunon has in that combat set. And both Adept and Draco are just insane together, really good together. Because they can proc at the same time. And Draco is basically a guaranteed kill because it's triple damage. Most often than not. She gets Anti-Evil at 25, which is unlikely to happen, but if you do get it, it's right at the end of the game where you're going to be fighting almost majority monster, so it's good. She also get in through an event at chapter 30. She will get Astra. You do have to put her in Home's route at chapter 30, but she will get Astra, which is a really good combat skill. It's basically just free 5 hits that do normal damage once it procs. And it's a really cool story building moment for her in terms of character. But overall, I think Julia's downside is that her bulk and base strength, aren't that great. And if you don't get lucky and you don't get strength level ups on her, she kind of just falls off and it's just worse than the other Myrmidons. I think if she gets lucky with level ups, she can turn out good. But I think overall she's kind of meh. She's good early game. She falls off unless she gets good level ups like Bart's and the other ones in C tier. So I think C is a good fit for her. Like, she has problems, but if you get good level ups and you focus and you put focus into her, she can turn out good. So yeah, I think she's good. I think what saves her is her really good skill set. Also helps immensely, so that like if you get good level ups on her like you start getting the really good skills, and then she can just like spiral, and she can just become like an amazing unit. All right, next is Plum. Plum is a really weird unit, and I don't really know how to rate her. Most people, I think, would rate her... Where is she? Where the fuck is Plum? Is Plum not... Oh, there she is. Most people, I feel, would rate her S. I'm going to rate her A for one reason. Now, Plum is a really weird unit. She joins with absolutely horrendous base stats as a cleric. Like, her base stats are just god-awful. Like, her only stat above 4 is luck, which is 6. And everything else is 4 or below. Her HP is 18. Her mastery is horrendous. Her growth rates are terrible. Outside of, like, luck and magic, everything else is 20%. So, like... She can't even use Physic at base, and it takes forever, and, like, she needs to get lucky to even be able to use Physic within, like, several levels. So overall, those all sound like an F tier unit, right? Like, she's just, like, an F tier unit. But, Plum is also the dancer of the game. Through an event in Chapter 9, which is a Mickey event, she gets tricked and sold into slavery, and then she gets saved by her brother in Holmes if her brother is with her, which is a great scene. I love it because Holmes just beats the shit out of that disgusting slaver. But she gains the dance skill, and also the dance skill is how you reunite her with her dad later on in the game. It's a really wholesome scene, and she gets the best ending through it. So I think overall it's a positive. It leads to a positive thing, but yeah. She is also the dancer of the game. And dancing is pretty good in this game, only because there's a weird thing where it tracks how many times you dance, and if you dance over 100 every time if you dance over 150 times, she starts getting the chance to increase either the increase the dance recipient's strength or magic by 10, or have the damage they take for the entire rest of the chapter. And that can increase to 100% chance if you dance 250 times. You have to try to do that, though. That's not going to ever happen realistically in a realistic game unless you're grinding it. Now, most people would put her... and because dance is basically you give a unit another move, that's fucking amazing. Now, the only reason why I don't put her in S is that, unlike a lot of other dancers in the main Fire Emblem series where they have like high speed and agility, so like high speed, high luck so they can dodge, at least Plum doesn't have that. Plum just kind of sucks stat-wise and is basically like gets one shot by most enemies. And that becomes a problem when witches exist and they can just teleport to your location and just zap any weak unit you have lying around that's basically in any position. So I think she suffers from the fact of how that works and the fact that she can just get one shot and just not do anything. Even, like, regardless of your positioning. And regardless if you give her a magic shield because her HP is so low. So I think overall she's still really good because of dance, but I don't think I can put her in S tier just because of that, like, annoyance where she can just get teleported to in one shot because the AI will go straight for her because it sees that they deal the most damage, and the witches will teleport to her and kill her. Or the game, or specifically in another chapter, someone will warp a brave crossbowman into her and one-shot her, like what happened with me several times. But yeah, I think because of her just no durability and the fact that, like, she's a healer who can only use heal for a long time unless she has a defense staff, which she can use that. I think she's A. I don't think I can put her in S just because she's like... I think she gets an A because if she didn't have dance, she'd be F. She'd be one of the worst units. She'd be probably the worst unit in the game. But because she has the defense staff and dance, she goes an A. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair assessment. I don't. Hold on, I'm gonna take a screenshot of something for a friend. Okay, now we've got... That's all the Chapter 2 units. Who's the next unit you got? You'll get any of Chapter 3. Oh, Chapter 4, right. So, next is Martel. Martel. A. Martel is pretty good. She's the first actual Pegasus Knight you get, and her base stats are really good. Her base stats are really good for her join time. She comes with 6 strength, 8 magic, 11 speed, 7 skill, 4 defense, 22 HP. Her physical bulk is a little bit low, but, like, that's just standard Pegasus Knight stuff, so you just gotta deal with it. She's the first flyer you get. She's really good. Her base stats are... She comes with Vantage and Canto, which are both pretty good skills. Which basically means if she gets attacked and she has more AS, she goes first, which can help. She's the first... She's a good unit. She's a great unit. She has flying utility. She can use Levin swords really effectively. She's got good, decent strength and defense growth, so she can quickly become a bulky, like, flyer. So if you get lucky, you can get some bulk on her, and she can start dealing damage with, like, iron and steel lances. Her luck is her highest growth, funnily enough, at 55%. So she'll keep gaining luck, and her avoid will be pretty good throughout the game. You can even you can promote her with the early Dragon Flute that you get, the first Dragon Flute you can get, and you can get a pretty bulky flyer. She will lose magic because of this, but you can then just focus on physical if you want to, or you can just not promote her and focus on magic with her, and she'll turn out one of your better combat units. I don't think she's S tier because I think she suffers from, like, if she doesn't get good level ups, she can kind of falter a bit in terms of like dealing damage or tanking hits. If you promote her to Wyvern Knight, or if you promote to Pegasus Knight, she might suffer from the bulk. So she's either going to suffer. So if you're unlucky, she's either going to suffer from bulk, from being a Pegasus Knight, or damage from being a Wyvern Knight. So I think overall there's that issue, but I think she's the first flyer you get, and she's pretty fucking good. She can do stuff. She can get to places that other units can't. She can help you get objectives. She can help get rid of some tough enemies, like an archer being in a weird spot. And yeah, I think she's really good. E tier. I think she's a pretty good unit. She's gonna be. I think she's one of your main combat units for Runon's route, or whatever route you put her in on outdoor chapters. And then indoor chapters, she kind of sucks, but like, she's insane on outdoor chapters. So, good unit. Also, unlike Raffen, even though Raffen turns into a Drake Wyvern Knight, and she can too, Raffen is the only Wyvern Knight that can use lances indoors dismounted. She cannot, and neither can any of the other female Wyvern Knights. It's really weird. I don't really understand why, but it might be because of Bronze Paladin can, which means technically these two can promoted, but whatever. Alright, and then we've got, okay, Raquel. Raquel? A. Raquel is a really weird unit. So Raquel is a promoted sniper that joins your army at the same chapter as Martel. Raquel's base stats are absolutely fucking nutty. Like, Raquel's base stats are absolutely fucking insane. Now if the thing will load so I can actually look at the base stats. Yeah. Raquel comes at, by the way, this is chapter 4. 12 strength, 16 speed and skill, 16 mastery, 7 defense, and 8 luck. Chapter 4. Raquel has base mastery, has the mastery to wield every bow in the game. Her stats, in terms of speed and skill, are endgame worthy. Like, she can double pretty much every enemy in the game, straight up, and will hit every enemy in the game with 100 or close enough accuracy. Irregardless of level ups. Her base strength of 12 is good enough that she will one round in quotation marks most enemies in the game up until late game, where if you don't get level ups, it'll fall off a bit. But yeah, her skill set is also really good. She comes with Adept, Paragon, Forest Fighter, I think, Forestite or whatever, and Urbanite. So she gets more movement and hit and avoid in forest and city maps. And she also gets anti-evil at 17, which is in 6 levels because her base level is 11, which you will very easily get with Paragon. Now Raquel has a weird quirk about her. She will never kill human enemies. If she fights a human enemy, she will always leave them at 1 HP. Every attack she does that tries to hit an enemy at 1 HP will miss. Is coded to miss, always. Even if she procs Adept, even if she procs another skill, it will always miss. Unless you do a specific event with her brother, Luca, where he dies, and she then goes about murdering enemies. And then she can murder human enemies. Now, this doesn't apply to monsters. Raquel can absolutely just decimate monsters. But this sounds like a downside. And it is when you forget about it, because like I did, late game, because I did forget about it at some points. But this in turn makes it really easy to train units. Units are surprisingly bulky in Tear Ring Saga for early and mid game. And Raquel, more often than not, can just decimate their HP because of her high damage. Her high damage and her decent growth rates with Paragon making it so that, like, she levels up fast and keeps gaining, and will gain some stats every once in a while, strength and stuff. So, she can quickly... She can bring things to 1 HP so your other units can get trained and get vital experience, which is really nice. And with Paragon, she doesn't even really need to kill anything to get enough to get experience to level up, because she chips something and she gets like 20 to 30 experience, because experience is so plentiful in Tear Ring Saga. So she's really good in that aspect. Now, the downsides for her are, of course... Now, she does have downsides. She can't kill human enemies unless you do the event, which stinks at some points when you want to just, like, get rid of a unit with a ranged character. And I think she suffers from kind of being an archer in the fact that, like, she can't, like, enemies can just walk up to her in one range and hit her, which does suck. But I think the fact that, like, her base stats are just so high. And by the way, she comes with a Brave Bow, which is basically her exclusive weapon, because no other archer is gonna have enough stats to use the Brave Bow for a long time. So basically, it's her personal weapon for the majority of the game. And she doesn't even really need it for the majority of the game to deal with enemies. She can use a bow gun that, like, Kate has and just do fine. But she's really good. I'd say she's, like, one of the better units, and she's really good indoors. Unlike a lot of other units who have lowered movement. So I think overall, she's pretty fucking good. I'd say she's an easy A tier. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by a video. But yeah, anyway. I got distracted by the funny video. Anyway, yeah, she's a really good unit. I think she's pretty good. I keep saying the same thing. This is a very unprofessional tier list. But yeah. Next is Vega. Vega is an easy A tier. There's no question about that. Vega is an easy fucking A tier. Like, holy shit. Is Vega arguably S? I have to think about it. Is Vega an S tier for me? Nah, I'll put him in A, because he's not as good. Like, Vega is really good. Vega joins in Chapter 4. You have to talk to him with Julia, and they'll have a fight between the two of them, and then Vega will join your army. Vega is really, really fucking good. He's the second Myrmidon you get, and his base stats are just really, really good. 26 HP, 13 skill and speed, 6 strength, 5 defense. He comes with better strength than Julia, and he'll have better bulk than her, probably on average, unless you got really lucky with Julia. He comes with his own personal weapon, the Shram, which has 10 might, I think 80 hit, 30 crit, and halves all damage he receives, while also being effective against monsters. And he gets 60 uses of it, So if you're smart, you can save it. You can have him use it throughout the course of the game and have it for late game. Having a personal weapon that halves all damage he receives, like he can have it just equipped, and it doesn't waste uses if they just attack him and he doesn't attack back. So it's just like it increases his bulk by a shit ton. Vega's growth rates are pretty good outside of luck. His luck is garbage, so his other growth rates are really good. He starts off with Soul, which helps his survivability even more. He then gets Draco at 15, which again, insane damage skill. And Soul and Draco combined means it's pretty hard to kill him. It's pretty hard to kill him, especially with the Shram equipped. He's very hard to kill. And he more often than not will just crit or proc Draco and just one-shot whoever's fighting him and even heal all the damage with Soul. He also gets Vantage at 35, but you're never getting Vantage, so I don't. You're not learning Vantage on him to play level up. He's just a really, really solid combat unit. He turns out pretty well. He's probably one of the best gains for the early hero crests just to increase his stats because his promotion gains are decent but not great. They're not amazing, but yeah. He's also one of the best users of the Rukud, which is a sword you get late game that has like 80 crit. And he can just go to town with that and the Shram. Also a Brave Sword if you get it, because you get 2 Brave Swords. You can give that to him and he also goes to Tam. I'd say his only downside is he can be a little bit slow. He will be a bit slower than the other Myrmidons, but he'll be the bulkiest Myrmidon you have, and overall he'll just be really solid. I don't think he's S tier just because he lacks 1-2 range. Which does suck because ranged enemies will just take pot shots at him, and he can't do anything about it except equip the Shram and hope they don't hit a shit ton, hit a crap ton. But he is one of your better options for dealing with really tough enemies that like will just hit at range because he can distract them. But that also means he can't attack back, so that also sucks. So I think he's not S tier, just because his only 1-2 ranges are 11 swords. 11 swords suck. So for him, because he has no magic. So yeah, overall he's A. Like he's very hard to not have. It's very hard to not have a good Vega, and he's worth investing time into. Like the other people in A tier, there's worth investing your time into, and it'll turn out to be a pretty good unit. All right, so that's all the people from Chapter 4. Who's next? The next unit you got... Oh, I know. Okay. So next unit we have is the last one alphabetically, Zeeg. I don't think this is anyone. This is a surprise. S. Zeeg is the best unit in the game. Hands down. He's the best unit in the game. I don't think there's any question about that in any capacity. Zeeg comes at Chapter 5 with absolutely ridiculous base stats. He comes in his own class, unique class, Shadow Knight. Dark Knight. Which is an enemy-only class for the most part, except for him. His base stats are absolutely ridiculous. The only one that can compare to him, base stat-wise, is a promoted Naren. And even then, he beats a promoted Naren on average in some of his stats. His skill set is also insane. He comes with Nihil, Wrath, Adept, Paragon, and Frontier Fighter innately. And he gets Kanto at 14, which he will pretty much get unless you never use him because he's of Paragon. He can use lances and axes. He comes with the Devil Spear, which he is the only unit in the game that it will not fire back on. So it's basically a weapon exclusive to him that has like 73 uses and insane might. His growth rates are the best in the game as well. 80 HP, 55 strength, 55 skill, 55 speed, 35% magic, 30% luck, 35% weapon mastery, 35% defense. He'll level up insanely fast, and he will get amazing level ups and just continue to ramp up and up and up and up. Now, he does leave after Chapter 24, and he does leave after Chapter 24, which means he isn't there for the second half of the game. Or the later second half of the game. But he is such a dominating force during the first half, and he just carries. So, like, he can carry you. So he carries you through some of the hardest maps in the game, and it's basically essential for it. So, overall, he deserves S tier. There's no other unit that's better than Zeke in terms of combat. There's basically no other unit better than him in terms of combat, and he just stomps on the game while he's there. And there's no point to not use him, because he just makes the game much more easier and bearable for some of the hard early game maps. And he's just really fun to use. And there's no point not using him. It's not like experience is like really hard to come by. And you're not hitting level 30 with anyone, even if you don't use the late game anyway, unless you exhaustively use them. So yeah, easy S tier. I don't think there's anywhere else he can be. Except some people would put him A tier, but like, nah, he's S tier. Best combat unit in the game. The only one who rivals him in combat is Naren, and I think basically Naren. And they're both arguably really fucking good. All right. And the next one is Marouge. Marouge? Where's Marouge? Where the fuck is he? There he is. I'd say he's B. Marouge? Yeah, I'd say he's B. Marouge is the first mage you get in the game, and he's alright. He's definitely the worst of the mages. Sorry, it's lagging. I think I'm running. He's definitely the worst of the mages. His base stats starting base stats aren't great. I believe they're kind of like, he's kind of, his physical bulk is really bad. Like most stereotypical mages. And I don't think his his speed is not great. Oh no, his speed is pretty good. His base speed is 7, which is pretty decent. And his mastery isn't bad. It's just his physical bulk is really bad. He is the first mage you get. He specializes in thunder and wind magic. But when he promotes, he gets access to all the magic except dark. His promo gains are really good, as it is for most sages. He does get skills. He gets adept at 19. He gets soul if he gets adept if he is level 19, if he gets to level 19 as a mage, and he gets soul if he gets to level 20 as a sage. So the game tries to get you to hold off on the promotion until level 19, which adept is worth it, I'd say. And then he gets flurry at 39, but you're 100% never fucking getting that, so just that doesn't matter. His growth rates are meh. His growth rates are kind of meh across the board. His HP is bad. His magic is 20%. The main problem is his magic is really bad. 20% for a mage is not good. 6 magic is a good start, but like having 20% is just like, it's going to be hard for him to get magic unless you're lucky, and he'll just fall off in terms of damage. Now, like all mages except for Lee, he does get, and one other mage later, he does have a tome unique to him called the Wonder Gust, which is the worst unique tome in the game. It's a good tome. It's got good might and it's got high crit and accuracy, and it doesn't weigh that much. But the problem is it's locked to Marouche, who's not that good, and the other unique tomes are just better. So it just kind of sucks. If he had a better magic growth, I'd put him in A, because magic is really fucking good in this game, and basically will just decimate most units. But I think because of his poor magic growth and the fact that, like, unless you get lucky, he's just gonna, like, fall off in terms of damage and do less damage than your physical units. I think he's B tier. He's good if you get lucky, and I feel like he's better than the physical units here if they get lucky, because if he gets lucky, he just one rounds most things because magic is just that broken. And I actually got really lucky with him in my playthrough, and he got, like, really high magic and speed. But even then, I dropped him because there were just better mages that just did more, and, like, I wanted to use other physical units that were better. So, like, but I think he can be really good, and I think he gets us a tier above just because magic is really good in Tear Ring Saga. So I think B is fine for Marouche. It's higher than what most people would give him. I feel like most people would put him in C or D, but I'm gonna put him in B because I think he can be good, just because magic is really good, and I think his promo gains help a lot. So yeah, next is who? Who's next at recruit? Is it Norton? No, it's Mel. Oh, it's Mel and Norton. Okay, so let's do Mel. Mel is B. Mel's decent. Mel is along with Lee, the only healer to deal combat damage, to be able to deal combat damage. But unlike Lee, who specializes in magic and has a good magic stat, Mel can only deal... Mel is a sword user, and her base strength is 2. So she can deal damage, but, like, she's not gonna deal damage, let's be honest. Mel's main draw is that she's a mounted healer, which means she's a healer with move. And she does get Kanto at 14, although it's going to be a bit tricky to get her there with her starting at level 3 and not having Paragon and only being able to use heal. That's not going to happen for a long time unless you use her exhaustively. Once she gets Kanto, I think she'd be pretty good with, like, a moving healer on outdoor maps. Indoor maps, she's just worse than Enta. There's no reason to field her other than Enta. But I think on outdoor maps, she does have that niche. Her base mastery is not high enough for Levin Sword or, I think, Physic, but she will eventually, through levels, maybe get to that. But honestly, Mel's not meant for combat. She's just meant to be a mounted healer. Only use her for healing. Don't use her for combat. It's not gonna work. Unless you get, like, lucky and you get mastery immediately, and then maybe she can do something 11 swords, but her stats don't really matter. Like Enta, unlike Plum, who dancing can matter stat-wise a little bit, just so you don't die if you get mispositioned or a witch comes in, because of her low magic. These two stats don't really matter. They're just meant to heal. Mel does. Now, normally, that I would probably put her in... Now, if that was just what Mel did, I'd probably put her in C tier and just be like, she's decent. If you train her, she's good. But, like, nah. But Mel does have a staff unique to her called the Enscorsel, or however you pronounce it, which basically halves all magic... No, it buffs another unit's magic by 10 for the entire chapter. And that is a pretty good staff. You can use it on, like, a mage and have them just... You can use it on a specific mage later on, and they can just do a lot of cool stuff with boss killing. And you can give it to other mages as well, or physical units to tank against mages. So I think overall that does bump her up a bit. But unless you bring her to a specific path, which you have no indication of other than, like, she's from here and this character goes here, technically, and this character can go here with their pathing. When in this character can, unless, because I'm just rambling on and on. Unless you bring her to Home's path, you're not going to get to Inscorsel. Because the game doesn't, because unless you figure out that, like, hey, because unless you figure out, which you're not going to when you first play, that, like, hey, Holmes can go to this route. Holmes on this route can go anywhere, so she can go back to her home. Then you're probably not going to get the Inscorsel. Also in that event, Marouge can get the Sylphide. He can't actually use it more often than not, so, but it's good for other units, so but that doesn't bump it up at all in any capacity, because I'm not counting that, because you also get the Sylphide later anyway, so, but you get two, so that's really good. Anyway, but yeah, unless you know that specifically, you could miss the Inscorsel, and also putting her into Holmes' route kind of sucks for her, and the character she's tied with, because they're both mounted, and Holmes' route is a lot of indoor chapters and chapters that are not kind to mounted units. They are not very kind to mounted units, so... But I'd say overall she's B tier. She's a decent unit. She's a staff bot that has a unique staff that does do unique things. But I don't think she's nearly as good as the stuff in A and S tier. But I don't think she's as bad as these units, because she has something important that only she has, unlike these units. But yeah, she's alright. And then we've got Norton. Yeah, Norton... I'm gonna be honest, Norton kind of sucks. Norton is D tier. I don't think he's F. But yeah, Norton's pretty bad. Norton is the first Armor Knight you get in the game. Recruitable Armor Knight. You have to have Sasha speak to him in Chapter 6 to get him. Funnily enough, you also don't get Mel if you do the event that gets the Pegasus Flute to Sasha. And you also can miss the Pegasus Flute if you don't talk to Mel in that chapter with Sasha. So you have two people Sasha has to talk to, and the game doesn't tell you... The game also doesn't tell you that you have to talk to Sasha with Mel only in that chapter. Like, it's not an event after the chapter, which would make sense. No, you have to talk to Sasha. You have to talk to Mel with Sasha in Chapter 6, and if you mess up and you forget to do it, you can never promote Sasha. So, if you don't do that, Sasha's automatic F tier. But, because of that, yeah, no, she's B. Now, Norton is the first Armor Knight you get. His base stats are pretty decent. 8 strength, 12 defense. He's pretty physically bulky. Like most Armor Knights. His speed is low. He's basically a stereotypical Armor Knight. He's got decent mastery. He comes with an Iron Sword. His skill set, he starts with Wrath, which is really fucking good. Wrath is insane. In this game. It's a really good skill. And he gets Urbanite, which isn't that great, but it helps. He also gets Big Shield at either level 25 normally, or level 12 when he promotes. If he's promoted early, and he gets a level 12. And that helps with his physical bulk. Now, the problem with Norton, and why he's in D tier, is his movement and his promotion. And why he's not in F tier is because of his promotion. Norton's movement is 3. Which is fucking horrendous. 3 move basically means you're not going anywhere anytime soon. Like, it will take forever to get you 2 points of interest. In any map, even indoor maps. And that hurts Norton in terms of getting experience severely. There is a part in the desert, in the 2 chapters after he joins, in a desert map where there's a lot of weak cavaliers that spawn in, where he can get a ton of experience, and get enough to promote. And promote with one of the early Night Crests. or on Chapter 8, where all the zombies are, he can slowly move over there and get a bunch of experience there as well. And that will help alleviate, and promoting does alleviate his movement issue, because he does go to 6 move and gets a horse. But his promotion gains are even worse than Kate's. And the class he promotes to the Iron Knight is one of the worst classes in the game, in the fact that you are both weak to armor weapons and horse cavalry weapons, and your movement penalties are the worst in the game, because you take armor penalties on top of horse penalties. And both of those combined means you ain't moving on any terrain that ain't a plane. You just ain't. And when he's dismounted, he goes back to 3 movement. He doesn't go to 4. He goes to 3. So, indoors he sucks. And outdoors he's not much better. And even promoted, he's like... And promoted, he's decent. 6 move, high defense. But, like... It's just not really worth it when you could give those like experiences to someone who like could use it better. I find the other Armor Knight you get later, a little bit later, much better, just because of the potential is much better on them. And I don't think the promotion is worth it. Now his growth rates are pretty decent, but like it's just hard to use him with this 3 move. It's just And, like, he's D tier because you can use him, and he'll turn out decent, but I feel like he'll always be, like, worse than a lot of other units, even if you train him. So, like, he goes in D tier. But I did use him at some points when I've early played the game. My first few playthroughs when I didn't, like, that I didn't finish because my game reset, like, half my progress. The emulator, old emulator I used to use. I did use him, and he did turn out pretty decent, but then again, I promoted him, and then I never used him in any outdoor chapters, even though I promoted him, so it was just like, yeah, he's just not good. He's not F tier, though, he's still D tier, he's in Marcus and Gero, but yeah. And then we have, next unit Tom? Ooh, next unit is Tom. Yeah, okay, so next we have Tom. Tom is F. Tom is really, really unfortunate. Tom is in a really unfortunate spot. Tom is the first wood shooter you get, which is basically a tank. Which basically is a tank. And his base stats are pretty good for his join time. 15 defense and 30 HP. He joins as the bulkiest physical unit in your army. And will be the bulkiest physical unit in your army for a long time, unless you train Norton or the other Armor Knight. And even then, he'll have better bulk than them for pretty bit, for at least a little bit. So he does have that positive. The downside is everything else about Norton, about Tom. He starts with decent base strength. 10 is pretty good. It's really good base strength. His base skill and speed, alright, whatever, they're serviceable. Base luck, non-existent. Base magic, non-existent, but that's basically every physical unit in the game. His mastery is 6, kinda sucks, but it could go up, He has a 40% mastery growth, it'll go up pretty occasionally, so he can use the better bows later. Then you look at his 3 movement, and you realize he has the same problem as Norton. Except now he's stuck with bows, instead of having swords. Which, means he's competing with bows now for Raquel, and other better bow units. So that sucks. And then you see his growth rates. And then you see that he doesn't get a skill until level 30 when he gets Adept, which he will never get to level 30 because he is a 3-move unit that uses bows. So he won't get experience when they crash into him, because most often than not, they won't crash into him, and they'll crash into him and he'll get like 5-10 experience. So he's basically almost never gonna reach level 30 unless you exhaustively train him in the arena or shit. And then to top it all off, just in case you didn't think it was worse, but even worse for Tom, his growth rates are really fucking weird. His growth rates are not focused in bulk, like his class suggests. They're focused in skill, speed, and mastery. In fact, his strength and defense growths are 10%, which means and his HP is 30%. So he will basically never get more bulky. Unless you get extremely lucky. He will never deal more damage unless you get extremely lucky. He will just get faster, which doesn't help him when more often than not he will probably double anyway because enemy speed stats are so low. Tom is one of the worst units in the game. He does have a small niche in the fact that like his physical bulk is good early game, that he can tank physical units. But he doesn't do anything with that, he just sits there. So he's just worse Northern. And the fact that but that's for one chapter. And then you never field him again. Because there's no point. Now his class does have access to 3 to 7 range weapons, which does sound good. But the problem is, I don't remember how you get them outside of one character joining with one at the very end of the game. And once you equip that weapon, you cannot move for the rest of the map. Nor can you counterattack for the rest of the map. So you have to move with this 3-move unit to the correct spot and then plant him there, never moving him again, to have a 3 to 7 range weapon that does piss poor damage. And never doubles either. So because it weighs 20, so he's never going to double with it. So, garbage unit. One of the worst units in the game. Tom, he's not even worth using as a meme. Luca, I could see, maybe using as a meme. Tom isn't worth it. Yeah, Tom isn't worth it. He's just bad. Now, the other unit you get in Chapter 7... Where is he? Roger? A tier. Roger's pretty good. Ooh, actually... Yeah, no. Roger, A tier. Roger is a pre-promoted Silver Paladin that you get in Chapter 7, and he is also the wife of Mel. So you need Mel to recruit Roger. Roger and Mel also have a unique thing where if one of them dies, the other will leave the army. And you cannot separate those two by putting them in different routes. If you try to put them in different routes, Roger will go to where Mel is, or Mel will go to where Roger is. I forget which one takes priority, but yeah. They will never separate. So they will always be together on a route. Yeah, Roger, pretty fucking good unit. Roger's growth rates, just to preface, are not that great. They're 20% in most stats, except for HP, which is 65%. But Roger's bases are what really carry him. His bases are excellent for his join time. 10 strength, 14 skill, 11 speed, 8 defense, 9 mastery, 8 move, 29 HP. He's got really good bulk for his join time. His bulk carries him throughout a large majority of the game. He starts off with Vantage, Pavice, and City Urbanite. So on city maps, he goes to 9 move, which is really nice. The only other character who has that is Estelle. and Estelle actually promotes into the same class as him, so Estelle is kind of like a mini Roger, but obviously way worse. Roger also gets Wrath at 18, which is arguable if you'll get that until, like, you won't get that until, like, mid-game or, like, late mid-game. But once you get it, it does make him a significantly better combat unit. Especially paired with Vantage. He can be low on health, and as long as he has higher AS, he will always attack first, and he can crit and basically one-shot most things. Because crits are really good in this game. They basically, crits double your base damage. So, like, if you do 26, but they block 20, they have 20 defense, and you get a crit, you're doing 32 damage instead of like what normally would be in most Fire Emblem games, which is 18. Roger comes with a Steel Lance and an Armor Slayer. The Armor Slayer isn't that good, but Steel Lance is pretty good. He can use Pylum's a base, which is the best ranged weapon in the game. Best ranged spear weapon, at least. And your main ranged weapon other than magic. Roger's overall really good. He's a solid unit. He's a solid combat unit. He does fall off late game. Because his growth rates aren't that good, but, like, his bases carry him for most of the game. And he can get, and if he does get some points in certain stats, he can just kind of stay consistent throughout the game. And I think just his bases are just good, and his base class is so good. Now, obviously, he's worse dismounted, but, like, on outdoor chapters, he's one of your better units. He's definitely not ass, but he's a solid unit. Held back by his low gross for late game, but, like, his skill set is good enough to where, like, he gets an A. Skill set and bases are good enough to get him an A. I think that's fair. Who's next? Okay, Roger. Okay, next is Home's Route characters. Kind of. Okay, next is Xeno. Xeno is B. Xeno's pretty good. Xeno comes in as the first mercenary you get, which is a class only shared by two other characters, with only one other character in the game. It's basically a more defensive Myrmidon. Just basically how I describe it, because they promote to Hero, which is a more defensive Swordmaster. His base stats are pretty okay. They're pretty good for a level 1 unit. 24 HP, 6 strength, 7 skill, 9 speed, 4 luck, 4 defense, 6 mastery. He comes with an Iron Sword, which is a decent starting weapon. He can get Steel Sword soon enough. He comes with Sea Fighter starting off, which is an alright skill. It helps in Homes chapters, but it's only for a few chapters, so it's not that great. It's just a free movement point for some chapters. His skill set does get better as he goes on, though. His skill set is pretty good, though. He gets Lethality at 13, which if he doesn't promote before 13, he does get Lethality, which is a good skill. Instantly kills an enemy if you get crit. He gets Anti-Evil at 20, which is just around where basically you go to, which is around when you fight a bunch of monsters if you're training him. So it's really helpful, and he basically becomes really good against monsters. And then he gets, was Rising Dragon? Is Rising Dragon Draco? Yeah, and then he gets Draco at 30, which he really isn't gonna likely to get, but he can get it. You can also do what I did as a meme and give him Astra in the final town, and like he can just be like a mini Yoda. He's pretty good. I'd say he's a pretty good sword unit. The Hero Crest promotion gives him a bunch of really good stats, and if you get lucky, he can turn out a really good combat unit. His growth rates are pretty good in terms of offense. 35 strength, 50 skill, 40 speed. He'll grow good. He's one of the better sword units in the game. I think what holds him back is his lack of like really good combat skills early, because all he has, like, he has nothing before 13, and then he has only lethality. So I think that holds him back a bit, and the fact that he doesn't have like a personal weapon like a lot of other sword users does hold him back a bit as well. But I think overall he's a pretty good combat unit, and you can't really go wrong with him. He's just good. Like, If he turns out bad, you can just use the other mercenary, and if the other mercenary turns out bad, you can use Zeno, and then you can use both of them if you want to. Like, he's just decent. He does kind of compete for hero crests, but you get so many hero crests for, like, the good units that, like, it's just a slight annoyance, but, like, you kind of want him to get to 13. You kind of want to wait for his promotion until 13 anyway to get lethality, so he doesn't really compete for it. You can just give it to, like, Vega if you have him on Home's route first, and then just wait for him. So yeah, he's alright. He's B tier. My Xeno turned out pretty good, so he became one of my better combat units on Holmes' route, but, like, I'd say he's still B tier. He's not, like, as good as the A tier people, but he's still good. B tier. I'm thinking Raquel might go to... Nah, she stays in A. Nah, Raquel stays in A. Yeah, he's pretty good. I haven't talked about supports much, because supports don't... I never really paid attention to supports. Yeah, they're alright. It only depends for certain characters, but yeah. And then we have Uni. Uni is... Where's Uni? There's Uni. D. Uni is the first thief you get in the game. I'm just going to preface this. She's not great. Thieves are not built for combat in this game. They're basically just meant to steal. They're basically meant to... They're basically there to open locks, open chests, and get you items in desert chapters. And that's basically it. And Uni fits this to a T. She comes with 0 defense. Absolutely 0. 18 HP and a singular point of strength, with a 0% strength growth and 5% defense. She will never get strength. Ever. So she will never get stronger in terms of damage. And you might be thinking, oh, what about magic? She starts off with 2 and has a 20% growth. So, unless you get extremely lucky, you're not dealing damage with 11 swords either. Or you use stat boosters. Her weapon mastery isn't even good enough to use 11 swords at base. You need 2 levels. 2 points in it. Now, her dodge chance is really good. But that's just if she gets attacked, which she should never, because she doesn't deal damage. She's just there to open chests and locks, and on Holmes' route, Holmes can do that, so... And he can actually deal combat. And so, yeah, she's not very good. You only field her if you want to do maps fast and you need to get, like, multiple chests open. But other than that, you're never gonna really field her. Funnily enough, her skill set is actually kind of decent, but it doesn't matter at all. She starts off with Steel and Lockpick like most thieves. Oh my god, how long have I been doing this? 2 hours, Jesus Christ. She does get Frontier Fighter at 12, which is decent, but, like, it's just a terrain skill. She gets Adept at 28, which it doesn't matter. You're never gonna get it. You're never gonna get her that, and, like, it won't help. And then Charisma at 35, which, what the fuck? 1, why does she get that? 2, why does she get it at 30 And 3, it's one of the worst skills in the game, so it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, D tier. Then we got Katri. Katri, D tier. She's the same as Enta. She's Holmes' healer, main healer. She's a staff bot. She does have the dragon. She annoyingly enough does not start with a heal stave, so you have to buy her one, which is annoying as fuck, and I hate that. I hate how she doesn't start with one. She does innately have the summon skill, and she starts as a zombie staff, but summoning is very niche. It doesn't really do much. It's just distractions. Basically, and that's it. She doesn't gain any other skills. Her growth rates are decent in speed, and luck, but ultimately her stats don't fucking matter. She's a healer, she's a staff bot. She does uniquely have the Ring of Salia, which lets her transform into the dragon. I forget the name of the dragon. What's the name of the dragon? What's the name of the dragon she transforms into? It doesn't tell me. Wait, no, it does. Oh, Neuron. So she can transform into Neuron, and when she transforms, she's basically invincible. She's invincible and can one-shot basically everything, but she gets no experience from this. So it's good. So, and this can actually be helpful in certain parts where you don't want to get hit, like to deal with really tough enemies. And it's basically a get out of jail free card. But I don't think that adds to your utility because like you get no experience, so it's kind of like most of the time you don't want to do it. But yeah, she's basically the staff bot for Holmes' route. She does leave after chapter 24, which sucks. So she can't be used for the second half of the game, which does stink. But overall, she's B tier. She's just a staff bot for Holmes' route, and she does her job well. Yeah, that's it for Katri. There's not much to talk about. All right, Mariah. Now, I know this is probably going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm putting Mariah in A tier. Magic is busted in Tear Ring Saga, and Mariel is your stereotypical high-speed mage. Mariel is unique among mages in that she has two unique tomes to her. She has Starlight and she has Aura Rain. Starlight is a tome that gives her plus 30 avoid and is effective against monsters and has a ton of might. The only downside is it weighs her down early on, so you don't want to use it that much. And also it messes with her XP gain early on, so you just want to use the fire tome she gets. Which is fine, because it gives her more experience and she levels up, and you want to save on Starlight. But yeah, I put Mariah in A tier just because, like, her two, like, personal tomes are really good. Starflame I already talked about. Starlight I already talked about. And Aura Rain is a tome that is only usable once every 5 turns, but hits everyone on the map. Which I did on one of the maps, the map right after I got it, and I crit one-shot the boss and destroyed his entire artillery gimmick for the map, so it was really funny. She'll grow decent, pretty good in magic and speed. She has a high speed out of all the mages in terms of growth rate, and just her base is pretty good at 7. Overall, she's a pretty good mage. Her skill set is okay. Her skill set is dependent. Her /skill set is dependent on whether you promote her at before 15 or after 15. Promote her before 15 or at/above 15. If you do it before 15, you get Luna, which is not that great because magic basically, because most units don't have a resistance stat, like, Luna's kind of pointless. It does help with the magic shield and bosses, though. But if you wait until after 15, she'll get Wrath, which I think is better. Even though you don't want her to take damage, if she's, like, damaged slightly, she'll just have an insane crit rate and just, like, destroy everything. And I think overall she's really good just because magic is really good in this game. She does also apparently get soul at 30, but, like, I used Mariah extensively, and I didn't even get close to soul. I got her to, like, level, I think, 26 or 27. And I used her a lot, so yeah. She's almost never going to get it. She's a really good unit, though. Mages are good in this game. Magic is really good in this game, and she's abuses it really well. And she's just a really good unit. I think she's held back slightly by her poor start, but, like, she quickly grows out of it and becomes a really good magic unit. Plus, in Chapter 9, the chapter she joins, you can very easily feed her a lot of the weak Cavaliers by having, like, Tom block the way and then having her just pew at them with fire, and then she'll just quickly gain magic and speed and just spiral out of control and become one of your best combat units. Held back a little bit by her low move as well, but like, unless you're going super fast, like 5 move is 5 move is fine for the most part. And the 4 move does suck initially, but also like magic is completely broken, so like it's fine. It's less forgiving on units like these because like they don't really have they're not going to kill stuff, but like Mariah kills most things. That's not a mage, and even then she will kill most mages with Starlight because she just one-shots them. Because magic resistance is half your magic, which means most mages, unless they have really high magic, don't have a resistance stat either. So yeah, she's pretty good. Yeah, A. Who's next? Oh, we got the memes. Okay, Sharon. Sharon is basically Kate, but joins later. I don't know. Sharon is D. Um, Sharon is basically has very similar bases to Kate. It is actually in the same class. Um, oh no, her bases are better than Kate, but Kate joined. Her bases are slightly better than Kate, but Kate joined in chapter 1. Sharon joins in chapter 10, which hurts. Their bases are not that much better. Plus, unlike Kate, who started with Adept, Sharon only starts with City Urbanite, and while she does get Flurry at 15, which is really good skill for killing stuff, um, she doesn't get any other skills except Kanto at 32, which she's never going to get. So she's basically stuck with Flurry, which is alright, but her growth rates aren't, from what I'm seeing, aren't very good. I didn't really use Sharon much. She's stuck with the same problem as Kate, where her promotion gains aren't that great. And like Kate, her growth rates aren't really anything to write home about. And it's basically just like another. It's basically just like a worse version of Kate. But like, if you were gonna use Kate, you're probably not using Sharon because she just comes as a worse Kate. So yeah, although she does have the cool thing with Raffen, and she does have a support with Raffen, but I don't think she's that good. I think she's one of the worst units in the game. I think she's better than Uni and Naren, but I don't think she's much better than anyone else. Yeah. I just think she's alright. I don't think she gets, like, amazing, but, like, she's alright. And then we got Bilford. Bilford's C. Bilford's, like, high C. I feel like Bilford is weird. He is an armor knight like Norn, but his base stats are better than Norton's. Yeah, his base stats are just overall better than Norton's by quite a bit. He has much higher mastery at 12. Bilford also has a unique thing about him where he has an innate 100 kills with a sword. So he has plus 10 hit and avoid with swords, and since he only uses sword, he just has free 10 plus hit and avoid, which is actually very useful. He comes with a free iron shield and a steel blade, which the steel blade weighs him down a shit ton, but it also makes him deal a lot of damage. He comes with big shield and wrath, which are both pretty good skills. Big shield helps his physical bulk. Wrath means the lower his health, the more crit he has, which can basically make him a crit machine. He gets Nihil at 26, which is very iffy if you're going to get. He gets Adept at 31, and he gets Flurry at 38, which both of those you're not going to get unless you're grinding him. His growth rates are pretty decent. His HP growth is excellent at 90%. His other growths are 35 to 30, except for Mastery, which is 20%. But, like, he starts with base 12, and base 12 basically lets you use majority of swords. I think it basically lets you use every sword in the game except Brave, which is 13, but on average he'll gain a point at some point, hopefully. His promotion is to General, which is better promo gains than the armor thing, but he only gets one move. But he does not have as bad movement penalties as Norton, so he kind of keeps that 4 move. And and he keeps that 4 move indoors, unlike Norton. So he does have that. He does have equivalent movement to a lot of dismounted units, so he is pretty decent in indoor chapters if he's promoted. But the one thing that makes puts Bilford... Now, normally I would put him in D tier. He's just kind of bad. But, because he's just basically Norton, but worse movement. So I'd probably put him at worse than Norton. Or a little bit better. Or about the same spot. But there's one thing that makes Bilford better. There's one meme. And that's the fact that Bilford has a 5% movement growth. Which means he has a chance to gain points of movement. Now, Bilford is the first unit in the game, playable unit, that has this trait. And only 3 units do in the whole game. As far as I know. This makes Bilford a weird unit. Where if you get lucky and he gains movement, he quickly, even if he gains 1 point of movement, he becomes one of your best indoor chapter units. Because of his physical bulk and the fact that he does do decent damage and doubles pretty good because of his sword use. And if you get really lucky and you get multiple points of movement, you get like a 6-7 move general that just zooms and starts zooming across outdoor maps as well, because his movement doesn't change. Unlike mounted units, his movement doesn't change in between indoor and outdoor maps. So if you get lucky and get movement, he can quickly become one of your best units. But I think because that's all luck reliant, and because he's locked to swords, which kind of sucks that generals are just locked to swords in this game, I think he can only be C tier, just because, I think if you don't get him any points of movement, he's, low C tier. But I think if you get points of movement and you get really lucky, he starts becoming a really solid. He starts becoming one of your better units. Just because, he's consistent. And I feel like his growth rates are decent enough to where he'll be pretty bulky. He'll be one of your best physical tanks. If you use him. I used him, I didn't get lucky, and I got really unlucky, and I got 0 points of 0 movement gains with him. But I still used him, and he was fun to use. But I won't put him any higher than C, because he's very similar to all the other C units. Yeah, he's not any better than them. He's definitely not B. Alright. Then we got Mince. Now, Mince, I'm a little bit biased against, because my Mince got incredibly speed screwed, as in he gained, no speed the entire time, the entire game, which sucked. But I say Mince is, a low A, high B. Mince joins as a promoted palette of Black Knight, which is one of the better mounted classes. Black Knights suffer very few movement penalties. Suffer less movement penalties than other mounted classes, and also I think they retain 5 move when they dismount. But they also have bigger stat penalties, but yeah. Mince is base stat wise is pretty good. His base stats are excellent, actually. 11 strength, 12 skill, 11 speed, 10 defense, 9 mastery, 32 HP are all excellent. And his starting skill set is also excellent. He has Wrath and Flurry, which is all he fucking needs. He doesn't need any other fucking skills in the game. He doesn't need any other skills. Wrath is insane, and so is Flurry. He comes with a Killing Lance, an Iron Sword, and a Leather Shield, which is a good starting set, and he's just a good unit. I think Mince does suffer from low growth rates. His only good growth rates are HP and strength, and skill and mastery. Oh, his no. Okay, sorry. Never mind. His strength and defense are good. His defense is actually, ironically enough, like higher than a lot of other physical units, and his HP is really good. I think Mince suffers from speed. I think Mince suffers from speed issues late game, which is what puts him into B. Um, you know what? Nah, he goes in A. He's better than Roger. Yeah, he's definitely better than Roger. I think Mince can suffer from speed issues later on, like Roger. But I feel like Mince's bases carry him for the majority of the game, and like his skill set is just super good. Wrath and Flurry are just too good of a skill set, and like his class is just decent. Like he's just a really good unit. I think he's not like, you definitely don't bring him from indoor chapters because there's just better units. But like he's one of your best units in outdoor chapters, and he's just a solid unit. Like you don't need any investment. He doesn't need any investment. He's just solid. He's just a solid unit. I think he deserves A tier. These aren't really in any order, but yeah, he's a solid unit. Like what? Like he's never your best unit, but he's solid. Solid unit. Not bad. Not good. Pretty good. Not bad in any way. But he's not S tier. He's not going to carry your game. And then we have Leone. Leone is C. Leone is C. I'm not gonna joke around. I used her, but like I will readily admit, Leone is a C tier unit. Leone is the third archer technically you can get. She starts as a base archer and joins at map 17, chapter 17, or map chapter 17 basically. Her base stats aren't bad for level 3. 6 strength, 6 skill, 8 speed. 3 defense is kind of bad. 6 mastery. She starts with 4 move, which sucks. It does suck, but she does have something to help relieve that. But anyway, her skill set is actually really good. She starts off with Flurry, which helps her with damage because she can do 2 rounds, which helps a lot. She gets Paragon at 9, which is a little bit tricky to get her to, but you can feed her can help feed her like harpies on the chapter 18, and she can quickly start getting experience and leveling up. And when she gets Paragon at 9, leveling up becomes so much faster. She gets Luna at 19, which is feasible, very feasible when she gets Paragon. And then she gets Adept at 34, which she's never gonna get, even with Paragon, unless you use her exhaustively. She gets City Fighter when she promotes, and when she promotes, she basically becomes another Raquel, but can kill enemy units, which can kill human enemies, which is nice. I think her downsides are that she joins at a point where it's a little bit hard to train her. And her base movement is pretty low. Now, Leone is tied with the highest movement growth out of all units with 10%. But that's a luck thing. And like Bilford, I feel like if she gets procs like she got for me, where she got like 3 procs and she started with zoom in, she'll become really good. And mine had insanely high strength, so she became a really good archer. But I think unless you get lucky with the movement growth, she'll just become just a slightly worse Raquel, which isn't terrible, but like, it's like, do you want that? It's like, arguably, you don't really need that. So like, yeah, she's C. I think she can be like all the other C units. She can be a really good unit if you get lucky and you train her well, but like, it requires some luck to get her up there. Holy shit, this is a 3-hour tier list, holy shit. Alright, let's get this done. Okay, Holmes. Holmes is B. He's up there with Renan. Holmes is a pretty good unit. He is the main character of his own route. If he dies, it's game over, like Katri and Enta and Renan. He is needed to beat the final boss as well as Renan. Now, my Holmes was incredibly strength screwed. But, so, like, my opinion is probably worse than a lot of others. I think most people would put Holmes in A tier. I'm going to put him in B tier because I got completely strength screwed on him and he was basically just kind of awful at combat. Holmes is a pretty good unit. He uses bows, but bows are really good in this game, so it doesn't really matter. It does suck because he can't attack at one range until he promotes. When he does promote, he gets access to swords, but his promotion gain sucks. He does get Draco and Charisma when he promotes, but, like, the only good one part of that about is Draco. Charisma sucks. Oh, no, sorry, he doesn't get Draco when he promotes. He gets Draco at 16. Okay. So he just gets Charisma when he promotes, which is an awful skill, so it doesn't matter. And his promotion gains are atrocious. The main thing is just getting swords. He has lock touch, so he basically can open chests and doors, meaning he just is your thief for the game, for his routes, which is nice. He has Sea Fighter, which is kind of pointless. You do fight all the sea maps and basically on Holmes route, so it does help him on those maps. He gets Draco at 16, which is good combat skill. Continue at 32, Adept at 32, but he's never going to reach that. Well, he can, but it's not likely. Holmes' base stats are really good. 11 strength, 10 skill, 11 speed, 7 defense, 10 mastery, 29 HP at level 6. His growth rates are good. He's just overall a solid unit. You can get stats screwed on him like me, but it's rare, and he is also needed for the final boss. And he basically has a monopoly on all the good bows for his route, so yeah, good unit. B tier. Hold on, I'm gonna get some water. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay. So yeah, Holmes pretty good. Who's next after Holmes? Oh yeah, Shigen. Shigen is... Where is he? There he is. I say Shigen is B tier. I don't think Shigen is as good as Vega. I think Shigen is the worst of the two male Myrmidons. Shigen, funnily enough, is also unkillable, and if he dies, it's also game over past a certain point. Shigen is the Holmes' best friend, and he has some very funny dialogue with him, but Shigen is the faster. Compared to Vega, he is the faster of the two Myrmidons, so he more focuses on speed and skill, other than strength. He's pretty good. He's actually pretty good. He comes with a Doulahan, which makes him unkillable. If he dies while wielding it, he just uses up a use of it and he revives himself. He starts with Adept and Sea Fighter, which Adept is a pretty good combat skill. Unfortunately, he doesn't get another skill until 21, and it's Arena Fighter, which is a terrible skill. Because unless you're going in the arena, you're never seeing Arena Fighter. Arena Fighter doesn't see use. He gets Draco at 28, which is like he probably won't get that unless you exhaustively use him, and then he's getting that on, like, the final map. Which does help his offense, but, like, that's not very good. And then he gets Vantage of 38. He's never getting that, so... excuse me. Very professional. Shigen's good. The fact that he's unkillable helps a lot of bosses, but I think overall he's not, like, an amazing combat unit. He's a good combat unit, but I feel like there are other units that are just better than him. And his personal weapon is not that great. Other than making him not die, its stats are not great. It's really heavy, and its accuracy is not great. Its might is good, but other than that, it's, like, a pretty bad personal weapon. So overall, he's not that great. So overall, I think... No, it's not that he's not that great. He's a solid combat unit, but he's not, like, as good as the A-tier people, in my opinion. Okay, next. Lionel, right? Yeah, Lionel. B. Lionel, solid unit. He comes as a lance soldier. He also is... You have to make a choice between the other 3 characters you didn't pick after map 2 and Lionel. So, Ezekiel, Lee, Naren, / Ruka, and him. And he will replace the character you did pick. Lionel is one of the few characters with a movement growth. He has a 5% movement growth, which, if it procs, it makes him one of your best units indoors. He starts as a Spear Knight. His base stats are pretty good really good for his level. 8 strength, 11 speed, 5 defense, 9 mastery. He comes with a Pilum and a Steel Lance, and that's basically all the weapons he needs to use until he promotes. He comes with Life or Death and Urbanite, which are both really good skills. Well, Life or Death mainly. Urbanite is niche. And in fact, his other 2 skills are actual levels he can actually reasonably get to. He gets Nihil at 17, and he is one of the few units that actually gets Nihil, which helps for bosses with a lot of skills, which are the late game bosses mostly. And he also gets Arena Fighter at 21, which is completely useless, but his growth rates are pretty good except for speed, but his base speed is so high that, like, he's perfectly fine for the majority of the game. He's actually similar to Mintz in that both of them have the same base speed and same base growth, so they'll both be fine. I got lucky with him and he kept gaining speed. Got lucky and kept getting speed procs, so he never really had a problem with speed. He also promotes to Sergeant, which means he gets access to axes and swords indoors. And he is one of the few people that can use lances indoors. Sorry. Overall, Lionel's a good unit. He's a solid combat unit. I feel like it's slightly he's pretty solid. He's good indoors. If he gets lucky with his movement growth, he can just zoom across the map. And I think he's only held back by his lack of personal weapon and his lack of, like, skill outside of Wrath and, like... Well, no, not really his lack of skills, but just his lack of, he can kind of fall off late game. But, like, overall, I think he's pretty good, and he's a much better choice than Ezekiel or Luca. He's definitely better than those 2 by a bit. He's not better than Naren or Lee early, but, like, by the time you get to the later choice, he's probably the better one out of Lee as well, but, like, he's not A tier. Because Lee early is definitely A tier. And then we have the optional Chapter 11 units. Alicia and Samson. Alicia, A tier. Good mage. Comes with Dire Thunder, which is the most broken tome in the game. Brave tome that has 12 might. She can one round most of the strongest enemies on Home's route just at base with the Dire Thunder. Doesn't really need any stat level ups. Her growth rates are a little bit low. compared to other mages, but she also comes with Dire Thunder, which is just insane. And that carries her for a lot of the game. Her skills, she gets Flurry at 16, which when she gets it, she basically can just continue to one-round things with magic. She's basically guaranteed to one-round things then with magic, because she can just Flurry with Dire Thunder and just one-round everything. And then she gets Adept at 32, which you're never going to get, but like Flurry is enough for her. Her promo gains are insane, as it is with most sages. Her personal tome is what carries her, mainly, and then the fact that, like, she's basically Holmes' main mage until you get Rochelle, and she's pretty damn good at it, and can help with a lot of really tough enemies. She's as good as Mariel. I think she's, well, yeah, she's basically as good as Mariel, so A tier. Samson. Is Samson S? You know, I think Samson is actually S. I'm gonna put Samson in S. I know that's a little bit controversial. Yeah, Samson is just really, really fucking good. Samson, you're basically on a field in every chapter you get him in. Funnily enough, in his starting chapter, he can struggle to survive if you get really unlucky. But Samson is a beast. Samson's bases are amazing. 31 HP, 9 strength, 10 skill, 13 speed, 6 defense, 10 mastery. He actually has the skill stat and the skill growth to be able to have enough accuracy to use axes extremely reliably, even bad ones like the hand axe. He comes with a killing axe, which is really good. He also comes with his skill set is really good. Well, not his skill set is okay. He starts with Frontier Fighter, which actually makes him immune to swamp poison damage from swamps, which is really nice. He gets Vantage at 14, which makes it so that when enemies attack him, he just always attacks first because his AS is almost always higher, even with the heavy weight of axes, because his speed is just really good. He gets Nihil if you don't promote him until 20. It's pretty much worth it to do it because he's one of the few units that actually gets Nihil, and his base stats are good enough that he can take waiting until 20, and then he gets Adept at 29, which you can actually get, which is hard to get if you're not using him exhaustively, but like I used him extensively and I got Adept and it helped with some fights. Samson's growth rates are really good. 95 HP basically means he basically always hit the cap, or near the cap. He has 35 strength, 35 skill, 40 speed, and he has 25 defense and 35 mastery. Like, those are just really good growth rates for a physical unit. He's not lacking in any one area. He grows really well. He basically has a monopoly on all the good axes of the game. He very quickly gets the Brave Axe and the Dol Harkin, which the Dol Harkin is an axe that halves all damage received. And he basically has a monopoly on those two, and they both have over 90 uses, so he's never going to run out of uses on those. And he's just going to go to town with those for the majority of the mid and late game, and he will just carry you on Holmes' route. He's probably the best combatant on Holmes' route, and probably the best physical unit in terms of bulk on Holmes' route. Like, he can just take hits like nobody's business and just destroy most enemies with either a Brave Axe or the Dol Harkin. He's really good. I'd say he deserves the S tier. He's just a really solid unit, one of the best combat units in the game, and just, yeah, he's one of the best. He's a staple on Holmes' route, and basically you're always going to field him, unless you're like me and forget to field him on the final chapter for some stupid reason, and yeah. Because I'm an idiot. Alright, Atrum. Atrum is B. I'm pretty sure he's incredible. He's basically he's the same. He's very similar to Xeno in the fact that he starts as the same class as Xeno, except joining 2 chapters later. He has very similar base stats to Xeno. His skill set is not as good as Xeno's. He doesn't have start with any skills. He gets Soul at 15, and then Lethality at 26, which you're not really going to get unless you use him a lot. The thing that sets Atrum apart, though, are his growth rates are really fucking good outside of defense and luck. Like 70 HP, 40 strength, 50 skill, 45 speed, 30 mastery. His growth rates are really good. So if you use him more often than not, he'll grow really well, probably better than Xeno, and he'll turn into a really good hero. Now, I got really unlucky with him, and he gained like no stats in the first like 5 levels, so I just dropped him. But he's arguably the same as Xeno. They're both interchangeable. You can use both. You can use neither. You can use one or the other, whichever one grows better, and they'll both be about the same. Atrum is needed to recruit one of the best characters in the game, though, so it is kind of worth training him just for that, so it's easier to recruit that character. But yeah, Atrum, pretty good unit. He also is needed to recruit another character as well. But yeah, Atrum, pretty decent unit. B tier. He's the same as Xeno. Who's next? Oh, okay. Next is Krishna. Krishna is F tier. Krishna is really weird. Or Krishna. She is the 4th Myrmidon that joins the army. There's the 4th playable Myrmidon. And she is also the only Myrmidon that has steel, which means she can occasionally take items from units that she defeats, which is kind of cool, and gives her a unique niche. The problem is, Krishna's stats suck. I mean, also she does get Draco at 17, so if you're training her, she'll get that eventually, and she'll become much better at combat. The problem is, Krishna sucks, stat-wise. Her stats are abysmal. She comes as a level 1 unit at chapter 13. And her combat stats are basically fucking atrocious. 3 strength, 2 defense, 5 mastery, 6 magic, 7 skill, 9 speed. So her skill and speed are decent, and her luck is good. Her skill, speed, and luck are good for level 1. Her magic is 6, which is funny. And her growth rates are also abysmal. Her highest is HP, which is 40%. And she has a 15% magic strength growth and a 10% magic growth. And her skill and speed are 15 and 25. Like, she's never going to get better at combat. Like, her combat is so bad, and her stats are so bad, she can die before you can get... She can die in her starting chapter before you can even get to her because she starts surrounded. And there are promoted enemies near her that can just one-shot her because her starting stats are so bad. Like, she's just awful. She's just an awful unit that, like, even if you wanted to train her, every other unit is just better than her at combat. And her unique niche of steel doesn't matter when she can't even dodge or deal damage to make use of it. So she's F tier. She's one of the worst units in the game. And she has a bunch of events tied to her, which I think is cool. And makes the game feel more like cool and world building, helps with world building. But yeah, she's one of the worst units in the game. F tier. Merchant. Funnily enough, he is also F tier. Merchant is a meme. Merchant's base stats are slightly better than Krishna's. He comes with 28 HP, 9 strength, 4 defense, but his skill and agility are 2 and 4 respectively. And he has 1 luck, so he has no chance to dodge things or double. Ever. Any good weapon will basically make him negative speed. He's stuck with 4 move. He has 6 mastery. So his base stats are awful. So you might be thinking, oh, maybe his growth rates are good. His growth rates are the worst in the game. He has a combined total of 30% growth rates. 30% over all his stats. He has 10% HP, 5% strength, 5% skill, 5% speed, 5% luck. He has no chance to gain defense or mastery. So he will never get better. But the one thing he has is he is the only unit. He one is in a class exclusive to him, Boss, which is counted as a promoted class. And 2, he starts off. He is the only character who innately has Mug, which when he defeats an enemy, he steals all their items for himself. The problem is Mug reduces everyone in a 3-tile radius. It reduces the bad thing is Mug reduces everyone in a 3-tile radiuses hit and avoid by 50. This includes your units and the enemy units. So anyone who's near Merchant, which needs to happen because he needs enemies weakened for him to kill them, gets severely penalized. Negating the whole unique niche of what he brings to the table. He's just awful. He's a meme unit. He's just a meme. Even the game considers him a meme. With him just being a joke throughout most of the game. Overall, also he comes back several times in the game as a minor nuisance. It's kind of funny before you recruit him. Yeah, anyway, he's F. He's an F tier unit. Alright, alright, next is Frau and San. Frau, I'd say, is... Frau and San are very similar, so I'm just going to put them in the same tier. Wait, that's not Frau. Wait, that is Frau. Who's that? Why are there 2 pictures for Frau? Oh, no, that's Rena. My bad. Rena, Frau, and San, I'm going to both put in A tier. Both of them are pretty good units. Both of them come at Chapter 15 at level 1. Both of them come at level 1. Both of them have pretty good basis for being level 1. And both of them are basically your S trainee units. Your S units. Both of them start off really low level with low basis for the overall time, but good basis for their level. But both of them are very much worth it to train. San especially. Sam specifically, she starts with Kanto, which a lot of Cavaliers just don't get. So she already has a good starting off point. She gets Paragon at 5, which just makes her slow, barrel out of control. She also she promotes into Black Knight, which gives her Flurry, which basically makes her another Mint, but just with better, on average, better base stats. She also gets Luna at 25, which is likely because of Paragon and the monster battles you fight in Homes are out to give her a shit ton of experience. She also gets Nihil at 40. You're never going to reach that, so just don't bother. Don't bother caring about that. Her growth rates are pretty good. Sand's growth rates are pretty good in most areas. Her skill is especially good at 55%, which means she'll proc Luna a lot when she gets it. It's worth giving her the anti-evil skill in one of the houses early on, along with Frau if you can afford to. Usually you can only afford one though, so Sand is the better one to do it with because Frau gets it eventually. And just training her on monsters with Frau. And they'll quickly blossom into some of your best combat units. Like, I used Sand, and she became one of my best combat units, one of my bulkiest units, and just an overall good combat unit that just did a lot of damage. Frau is very similar. Frau became one of my best flyers, actually, just because I got good level ups with her, and she's a pretty good unit. Her base stats are really good for her level, are insane for her level. Like, she's level 1 and joins with 7 strength and 11 speed. Frau is not as good at skill-wise as San, I would say. She starts the Kanto, which is great. She gets Adept at 12 and Anti-Evil at 25, which you're not getting Anti-Evil until very late game. Unless you buy it for her. But yeah, Adept, Kanto, Adept is really all she needs. You can give her the house skills like I did. You can give her Soul, and then she basically becomes... And then she can basically heal herself. Frau's growth rates are pretty decent. Her strength and defense are a little bit low, but that's all for all Pegasus Knights. So, like, her bases carry her. Her base strength and defense can carry her for a bit. I got lucky and I got some strength and defense, so she quickly became one of my best flyers. And yeah, she's pretty good. I'd say the start is a little bit slow, but it's very easy to train units on Holmes' route with all the weak monsters you face, and they can quickly become some of your best combat units with very little investment. So, excellent units. Alright. Lyria is C tier. Lyria is really weird. She is a cleric that joins at chapter 15, same as Frown San, at level 1 with horrendous bases. Her bases are equivalent to Plum. Her bases are Plum level. So her base stats are horrendous. Her growth rates are horrendous outside of speed, which is 35%, and luck, which is 50%. Her base mastery is 3, which means she can only use heal, and her mastery growth is 15%, so she's never getting anything except heal, unless you get extremely lucky, which then she can maybe use physic, but that's all she's using is heal. The thing that carries Lyria, that makes Lyria not an F tier unit though, is Sing and Empower. Lyria has a staff unique to her called Empower, which raises a unit's strength by 10 when she uses it. She gets this to an event with Uni, and it's a good staff. I'd say it's not as good as Inscorsal, because magic is more useful to have higher because of how the game's mechanics, how magic defense works than physical defense, but it can help for some stuff you want to do. If you want to make a unit stronger and just send them out into a horde of enemies to just one-round them all, she can do that. Sing is also weird. It is a skill that heals units around her, and can also have units that have done their turn move again. The radius does increase for Sing up to like 3 tiles around her. The more you use it, and eventually you can have the chance to make them move again increased. But it's a way worse version of Dance. It does allow you to make refresh up to 4 units if you get extremely lucky, but that's just that's like a very luck-based thing. So, that's not likely at all. And, it's definitely much worse than Dance. I'd say she's, like, if Lyria didn't have Sing and didn't have Empower both, I think she would definitely be F tier, one of the worst units in the game. But because of this, she at least has a niche. I think she's at least C tier. Yeah, let's say C tier for Lyria. Alright, Shiru. Shiru is the next unit to join, and I can think of season 1. I'm gonna be honest, Shiru's not that great. She was like a D tier unit. Oh my god, I gotta use the bathroom too. You know, hold on. I'm gonna use a bathroom break and then we'll be right back with finishing the tier list. Hold on. I'm back, bitches. Okay. Finishing this shit. Okay. Shiru, D tier. Yeah, Shiro isn't that great. He comes as a mounted bow unit. And joins right at the start of one of the hardest chapters in the game, which isn't great for Shiru. His skills are not great. He is pretty bad. He has Plains Fighter, which is unfortunately joins on the route where you stop fighting in plains, basically for the rest of the route, which sucks. He gets Kanto at 14, which he gets Kanto at least, which is at a reasonable level, which is what, not what I can say for some mounted units. And he gets Adept at 28, which he's never going to get. But the problem with Shiro is his base mastery is awful for his join time. 5 mastery at map 18 means you're only using a wooden bow, maybe an iron bow. And while his growth rate and mastery is good, it's going to take him so long to be able to use the good bows, and like there's no real point. His promotion gains are also really bad. He does gain swords when he promotes, but he just never really turns out great. He's just meh. And like, while that normally would make him in C tier, all the other C tier units have had much more time to like at least level up and be competent. Except Leone, but Leone at least has better bases and has better growth rates. Shiro unfortunately joins, and Leone has met Chapter 17 to get some experience. Shiro joins at one of the hardest chapters in the game where he can't really contribute because he's mounted. And the forests slow him down too much. And he just doesn't really get much. He's just not really worth training him when, like, he's just a meh mounted unit that does terrible in indoor chapters, and every other mounted unit before him is just better. Like, a trained Arcus will be better than Shiro. Like, Leone will be better than Shiro if you train them both at the same time. So it's like, he's just bad. He's just kind of bad. And requires, like, a lot of investment to make good. And I feel like he's just meh. Yeah. Like, and he also doesn't have anything remarkable. He doesn't have any combat skills. He has Plains Fighter, which is super niche and doesn't apply to any chapters he's in. And fucking Kanto, but he gets that 9 levels later. So it's like, yeah, no. And only having Kanto does not save you. All right, Raphael A. Yeah, Raphael's A. Raphael, really good unit. He is the only character that joins that has the King's Knight class. Which is arguably the best class in the game. It has similar caps to Gold Knight, but you can use all physical weapon types. Outdoors. Indoors, he can only use swords, so he's significantly worse indoors. His base stats are endgame worthy. Like, the only mediocre bad base stat I would say is his speed, which is 13, which is great for the starting time. But late game, that 13 speed with the weapons he wants to use kind of slow him down too much. But other than that, his base stats are 100% endgame worthy. And even his speed is endgame worthy. 17 strength, 16 skill, 13 speed, 12 luck, 13 defense, 15 mastery. He can use every weapon he would ever want to. Yeah, he's insane. He comes with Big Shield, Wrath, and Urbanite, which are all really good skills. Well, Urbanite is niche, but Big Shield and Life or Wrath are pretty good. He gets Flurry at 32, which he's never going to get, and he gets Anti-Evil at 37, which he also is never going to get, but they're there if you get him a ridiculous amount of experience, which just makes his combat even more insane. His growth rates are bad, except for HP, which is 50%, but, like, he doesn't really need growth rates. His bases carry him throughout the entire game. And he joins right when Zeeg leaves, so you have a unit that, like, is basically another Zeeg. Yeah, he's really good on outdoor chapters, bad on indoor chapters, but so is most mounted units. He helps for a lot of the hardest chapters in the game on Runon's route. He's just really, really good. A tier. Yeah. Alright, Lionheart, I'd say is B. Lionheart is a solid mountain unit. His base stats are pretty good. He joins his Homes chapter at starting 22. He's got 13 strength, 12 skill and speed, 9 defense, 10 mastery, 8 moves, 32 HP. His base stats are really good. His skill set is really good. He has Soul, Adept, Kanto, and Plains Fighter. Plains Fighter is useless because it's the last Plains map. But Soul, Adept, and Kanto are all really good skills. He can use bows and swords, so he can, like, do run and gun attacks with bows and go in with, and he's not defenseless with swords. He gets he gets Anti-Evil at 22, which if you're using him, you can reasonably get for late game monsters, which helps a lot. Indoors, he does take a penalty. He probably does take penalty to his stats, which does make him kind of suck indoors. because he's mounted. And his growth rates are decent across the board, 25% and up. Unlike a lot of other pre-promoted units that are like older people, that are like older men, like Raphael, who he is friends with. His growths are actually pretty respectable, so he will grow pretty decently, and he'll just be a good unit. He's not a bad unit. He's just good. He starts off good. He ends up good most of the time. He's just a good unit. There's nothing much more to say about him. His skill set helps him a lot. He has good stats. He's in a decent class. He's just good. Not great in outdoor chapters, not great in indoor chapters, but you can field him for outdoor chapters and he'll do perfectly fine. Next is Zachariah. Zachariah is also B. I would say. Zachariah's base stats are endgame worthy. Like, you can not give him a single point of experience, and you can use him for the final chapter. That's how good his base stats are. He comes with 50 HP, 17 strength, 14 skill, 11 speed, 18 defense, 19 mastery. He has enough mastery to use whatever he wants. His base defense and HP are insane. He can tank almost any physical enemy in the game, bar like Julius, and maybe Ernst. His base strength means he does a lot of damage. He comes with a silver sword. So he can hit hard if you keep it on him, or you can give him other swords to maybe make him go faster. His skill set is lacking. He only has Big Shield and Urbanite, and he's not getting any other skills, which kind of stinks. Because Big Shield is only defensive. But it helps with his physical bulk, and his growth rates are bad, but like, outside of HP, which is 55%, his growth rates are bad, which is fine. He doesn't need them. His stats are endgame worthy just on their own, and he's just a solid unit. You know what? Actually, I'll put him in C. Only because he's held back by his 4 movement. So, like, and he can't ever fix that. So he's kind of held back by that. But, like, his base stats are so good that, like, if you need a filler unit, you can just throw him in your army, and he'll be a decent unit. He's not, like, I don't think he's as good as the units in B tier, but he's a solid filler unit, and his base stats are good enough that nothing else really matters. And if you need a unit, Zachariah is perfectly serviceable. Alright, Bud. Bud. D. Bud is a thief, is the second thief that joins you. And Bud is probably the best thief at combat by a large margin. Bud's base survivability, base bulk is non-existent. It's actually the same as Uni's, who joined several chapters earlier. Like, at least over 10 chapters earlier. But unlike Uni, Bud actually has growth rates for defense and strength. 15% strength, 13% defense, which are both horrendous, but you can at least gain some points in them. Bud actually, though, is actually one of the best users, is actually a pretty good user of the Levin sword. Now, you need a lot of procs of her mastery growth to use it, because it's 8 mastery and she only starts with 4. She does have a 40% growth, though, so she will quickly get it. And her growth rates aren't bad. 35% magic is equivalent to a lot of the mages, and she starts with 6, so she'll quickly gain magic. So, in effect, once you get up to 8 mastery, or you give her a mastery potion, and then she only needs 1 proc, you can use Levin swords pretty effectively, and she can become a pretty decent combat unit with her speed. She starts off with Steel, Picklock, and Forest Fighter, so standard thief skills plus a niche skill. It does help her in her starting map by giving her 1 move, but again, Forest Fighter is niche. She does get Paragon at 10, which is nice. It's a little bit hard to get her to 10. If you're trying to train her, you can get her there, and she can do all right. And then when she gets 10, she'll quickly gain experience. And then she gets Astra at level 40, which you will never get on her. But like, if you somehow, by some miracle, get her to level 40, she'll get Astra and be like, and have like a basically one-hit kill skill with 11 sword. But the problem is you have to put a lot of investment into her to get that 11 sword utility out of it, and that's only one weapon she can use effectively. Every other weapon she's gonna be shit with, and she's just she's a thief that like does what Holmes does, and there's really no reason to feel both more than one thief, unless you need to go through the desert chapter pretty fast for Holmes's route. But then you're using Uni for the desert route for Runon's, the desert chapter for Runon's group to get all the treasure. But then you're using Uni for that, not Bud, because you need Bud and Holmes route to get the second dragon flute. The second and one of only 2 dragon flutes in the game. So, yeah, I'd say D tier. She's just another thief, and thieves kind of suck in this game because Holmes just does a thief's job better, and there's no reason to field them when Holmes does it. All right. Next, we got Rochelle. Rochelle, easy. Rochelle is an easy. I think Rochelle is an easy S tier. Yeah. I don't think there's any question about that. Rochelle is just best mage in the game. Bases are really good. 24 HP, 11 magic, 10 skill, 9 speed, 6 defense, 13 mastery. Comes with his own personal tome, like all mages. Sunflame. Sunflame is the best tome in the game. 1 to 3 range. Really good might. Effective against monsters. Gives Rochelle plus 10 defense. So he basically at base has 16 defense instead of 6. So he's insanely physically bulky. And none of the AI actually reads Sunflame's extra defense, I believe. So you can very easily bait enemies with Rochelle into attacking him, because they think they'll deal a lot of damage, and they'll deal significantly less and just get one shot by Sunflame. Rochelle's growth rates are pretty good. He has the best physical. He has the best bulk. He has the best growth rates in terms of bulk, which does help him. And his other growth rates aren't bad either. 30% magic, 40% skill, 35% speed. His promo gains are insane, like any other mage. He does weigh himself down a lot with Sunflame initially, but his promo gains and level ups should just get him out of that and make him start doubling things. Magic is broken in this game, so like he'll deal a shit ton of damage regardless. His skill set is really good as well. He starts off with Terra and Vantage. Terra is just a crit skill, so he has an extra chance to crit, and then Vantage is just really good for attacking first. He gets Anti-Evil at 15, which helps with the constant monsters you'll be fighting in the third route split onwards, which means he doesn't need to use Sunflame. Which means he doesn't always need to use Sunflame, and he actually has a really good chance of avoiding hits, even, like, he has a really good chance of avoiding hits, because he gets plus 20 hit and avoid against monsters with Anti-Evil. He gets Adept at 32, but you're never going to get that unless you exhaustively use him, which more than likely you will, because he's just that good. Which you can actually maybe get if you use him exhaustively, because he's just that good. Rochelle is one of the best units in the game. Hands down. He's arguably the best mage in the game. I'd say there's one that competes with him, but yeah, he's like S tier. Next is Sierra. Sierra is S tier. Sierra's base stat wise is not that great. Her physical bulk is not great. She comes to level 8 with 25 HP, 3 defense. And the earliest you can get her is after during the third route split. No, it's after the second. Sorry. So she's only there for the second half of the game. Her other stats, her magic and speed are good, and her mastery is really good. It makes her use Sylphide. She can use Sylphide at base, which is really nice. And because Sylphide is one of the best tomes. Her growth rates aren't anything spectacular. 45 HP, 25 magic and skill, 20 speed, 15 luck, 25 mastery, 15 defense. But Sierra is S tier because she has a lot. She has two things unique to her. Well, technically, two things unique to her. Well, mainly one thing. She is the only playable witch in the game, which means she has exclusive access to dark tomes, like Nosferatu, which is broken. And she also has not exclusive access, but basically exclusive access to the warp skill, which means she can warp to any tile on the map that she can actually like move across, and then move or deal damage afterwards. Like, her base movement is 3, but it doesn't matter because she can warp to basically any tile on any map she fights in. Warp is entirely broken and is what makes Sierra super broken. She is so versatile in the fact that you can warp her to a tile and then get rid of a lonesome enemy, warp her back, warp her to like an annoying ballistician and just get rid of it, warp her to a boss and then use Sylphide to do a lot of magic damage to them to chip them down. She's one of the best boss killers because you can use Enskorsel to boost her up and then have her one shot but late game bosses, which is a thing people do. Sierra is really fucking good because of the utility she gives with warp. And the fact that she has exclusive access to the dark magic means she gets to use broken tomes like Nosferatu and Death. So, all in all, she's really, really good. She's not S tier because of her base stats, which are just kind of meh compared to other mages. She's there solely because of warp and dark magic. And the fact she can use Sylphide at base helps immensely. She's arguably the best mage in the game along with Rochelle. Really, really, really good unit. Only held back slightly by her base durability being a bit low, but like it doesn't matter. She's so helpful. All right, Rebecca is C tier. Staffbot. She replaces Enta once Enta leaves. She also get her if you don't do the Latenna event. She's meh. She has, like... Rebecca has very little story significance. She just kind of shows up, joins your army, and then has no lines of dialogue with anyone else until her ending. That's it. She is the only character in the game that doesn't have a support with anyone. She neither supports anyone nor is supported by anyone. It definitely feels like she's just a filler character, which is weird. She's just a staff bot. She's just a staff bot to replace Enta. Her base stats are decent, but they honestly don't matter because she's a healer. She's just a healer. She starts off with summon and a golem staff, but summoning is just a niche thing. Doesn't really do anything. She gets Paragon at 16, which is super late, and she more than likely is never going to reach that because she's never going to heal enough. Unless you take super long like I did, and even then I never got close enough to get her to 16. She also gets Charisma at 38, but if she can't reach 16, she's never gonna fucking reach 38, like, straight up never. And, like, Charisma is atrocious, so, like, why? Her growth rates are pretty good, but, like, Again, they don't matter. She's a healer. She's just a staff bot. C tier. She's worse than she's like, the one thing that's going for her is her base stats are decent. She can survive at least one hit maybe, but like she has no unique staves, and she's just kind of meh. And then I'll rate Latenna even though I didn't get her. Latenna is the character you get instead of Rebecca, but you have to do this whole long chain of events with her and use Christ to kill a specific boss to get her. And even then, she will leave your army before the third route split if you don't recruit Ezekiel as well, which is her brother. So, yeah, she's very hard to get, and then she can leave within 2 chapters of you getting her. So you might only be able to use her for 2 chapters. But overall, I'd say if you can get her requirements, she's B tier. Her base stats are, while not mattering that much, are actually really good. Actually, really good for early cleric. And she starts with Paragon, so she quickly will gain experience, and her growth rates are pretty good. So like she'll gain some stats. She'll quickly gain Magic and Mastery, even though, again, her stats don't really matter. She gets summoned at level 8, which again was niche and kind of pointless. Doesn't really help. It just distractions. She also has a unique staff, which is the Silent Staff. The Silent Staff is weird. Basically what the Silent Staff does is it basically prevents all units from using magic for I think a single turn. For the turn that she uses it. Let me just looking this up real quick. I believe it only lasts for 1 turn. I don't know. I can't find anything on the wiki. It says it prevents all magic from all users. It says it inflicts a silence condition upon all enemy units on the battlefield. Which, I don't know if that prevents all magic from just every unit on the battlefield at that point. Which, if it does, that's definitely, like, B tier. That's definitely really good for some of the high-level mages. But if it's only for 1 turn, then it's pretty bad. If it's for the whole battlefield, if it's for the whole fight chapter, then I could see it being incredibly useful. But the problem is, to even keep that for the high-level mages, you have to recruit Ezekiel and go through a whole secret ring together. But I say overall she's B tier. Just because of the sheer amount of effort you have to keep her for more than 2 chapters to be able to use the silent staff, to use her exclusive staff to the fullest, I think she doesn't deserve to be A and S, like, at all. But she's definitely, if you can get her and you can keep her, she's a pretty good staff bot on par with Enta and Katri, or even better. And can really help with the really annoying mages late game. Yeah. Alright, now we have Rena. Rena, yeah, I don't think anyone's surprised about this one. F tier. Rena's awful. Rena's honestly probably the worst unit in the game. Or one of them. Rena comes in as a level 1 Cavalier at chapter 26. And her base stats are really bad. She comes in with 20 HP, 4 strength, 4 skill, 7 speed, which is nice, 18 luck, which is insane, 3 defense, 2 mastery, 9 movement. She does actually come with the highest movement out of anyone in the army at 9. And she has a 10% move growth. So on average, if you train her to level 40, she will get the max movement of 12. And she does get +1 movement when she promotes. So she only needs 2 movement procs to get maximum movement. And she does come with Paragon. So she does level up pretty fast. And she gets Kanto at 9. Vantage at 18, and Adept at 23, which are all skills she can pretty easily get with Paragon in terms of levels. The problem with Rena is her base stats suck. Like, really suck. The only weapon she can use at base is a Slim Sword, which is atrocious. And her growth rates are bad. Now, you might be thinking her growth rates would be really good because she's obviously a training unit. No. Her strength and defense growths are 10%. She is almost never gaining strength and defense. Her growth rates instead are focused on magic, speed, and luck. She has 60% luck, 55% speed, 40% magic. She has higher magic growth than most of the mages. Her HP growth is 40%, so that's below 50, and her skill is 35%. So she's a high move, high magic physical unit, which doesn't work. The only weapon she can effectively use is the Levin Sword, and on average, you're not getting access to the Levin Sword until 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19. About level 19. And you're just stuck with a 4 strength unit at endgame, trying desperately to get to there. And it's just not worth it. Her promotion gains are really good because she promotes to Silver Paladin, but you have to get her to level 10 before that, and that's a huge pain in the ass and struggle. And it's just ultimately not worth it. Because Sasha, a character you got in Chapter 1, just does the whole Levin Sword shtick better. Sasha does it way better. Mel does it way better. With, Martel does it way better. Frau does it way better. So there's no point to using Rena. She's just, awful. One of the worst units in the game. And a sign that, movement, just having pure movement does not make a character good. You can have insane movement, but if your stats are absolute garbage, it does not fucking matter. Alright, Renee. We're almost done. Renee, S tier, warp. Yeah. Renee, easy S tier. Mainly because of her unique, special staves. Renee has the best base stats out of any healer, in the game. Base stats don't really matter for healers, but it helps her survive with her bulk and her healing, because she has really high magic and really high mastery. She can use any stave in the game at base. She starts off with Summon and Frontier Fighter. Summon doesn't matter, and Frontier Fighter is kind of niche, but it helps the swamp levels, where she doesn't take damage. Her growth rates are good, but all in all, they don't matter, because she's a healer. The main reason Renee is an S tier is because of her unique staves. First one is Exercise, which gets rid of a number of monsters on the field equal to Renee's magic. that one's kind of niche, but it does help with the later chapters and just clearing out the monsters because it will kill any monster, including Draco zombies, just immediately, which is really nice. Um, the main reason why you want to use Renee, though, is because warp. Renee has access to the warp staff, exclusive access, and it starts off with 15 uses, and she can warp any an ally to any square on the map, as long as she's standing next to them when she starts it. And on average, you now unfortunately she starts using it immediately as an enemy, but on average, she'll still have 12 uses of it left by the time you get to her and clear out the enemies around her, because then she starts running away. And having a 12 use warp is just really fucking good. Like, you can skip a lot of late game chapters by just warping a really good combat unit to the boss and one rounding them, or warping Holmes to the gate and just having him seize it, or warping Runan to the gate and seizing it, or yeah, and she just makes a lot of the late game chapters that are super hard way easier. And she's essential for a lot of quick turn strats. So honestly, I mean, warp alone is really fucking good. So yeah, S tier, easy S tier. Oh, I forgot to rate Narcissus. D. I forgot to rate Narcissus. Narcissus is D tier. He's another thief. He's decent bulk-wise. He's basically Runon's main thief. He joins... technically, you recruit him in Chapter 9. He then leaves and steals half your money, and you don't get him back until, like, Chapter 26. He's okay. He's just another thief. He's actually kind of useful in Runon's route because he gets all the items, so I guess I'd put him, like, in C tier. And he does have the imitate thing skill, which is unique to him, where he can where he can copy someone else in terms of skills and stats. The problem is he loses all his skills when he does that, so he loses like lock touch and steal and all that, so he can't actually open chest when he's imitating someone, which is annoying. But he can like copy Sierra for warp and then warp over. The problem is you need to give him items to do this. He doesn't copy their items, so it's a little bit annoying. And while he can be used for those strategies, it's hard to use him because he doesn't copy their base stats. He uses his own base stats and kind of like reflects them onto their class. So his stats are usually just worse in most regards to trained units, and he's just not very good. I put him in C tier though because he is the thief for Runon's route. So unlike the other two thieves who like are in Holmes' route, they're not outclassed by Holmes just being able to do it. And like his transform skill can lead to some cool uses, but I think overall he's just not a very good unit. You only use him really for stealing stuff, and then maybe for a niche thing if you give him like a tome and warp him. But like he's just gonna be not very good at that. So yeah. All right. Yoda, easy. Yoda, I'm gonna put it high A. Yoda's pretty good. Yoda comes at like max level Swordmaster. He is the father of Julia and Shigen, technically adopted father of Shigen. His base stats are really good. Well, I say all his base stats are really good outside of his bulk. His base HP is good at 40. His base HP is really good at 40. But his base magic and defense are 6 and 8 respectively, and that makes his bulk 3-8 or 8-3 in terms of defense and magic, and that's just not great. So if you get unlucky with Yoda, he can get killed, which happened to me in the final chapter. He got hit by one spell and he just got killed, which sucked. He got unlucky and got hit by 2 spells and he died. But Yoda is basically a boss killing machine. his skill set is completely offensive. He has Astra, Lethality, Draco, Frontier Fighter, and Anti-Evil. This man is built to just kill stuff, and he is one of the best boss killers in the game. And he's a consistent boss killer as well. You give him the Rukid, and he is one of the best warp skip characters because he can warp to most bosses and just one-round them. Now, most people, I feel, his growth rates, he has pretty low growth rates, but they don't matter because unless you use an occult scroll, he can't gain experience anyway, and there's no point in giving him one because his growth rates are just not worth it to use an occult scroll on him. Plus, he's level 30 with no Paragon, so he's going to get barely any experience anyway, so yeah. I'd say what holds him back from S tier is he has no survivability skills in the fact that, like, what holds him back from S tier is he has no skills that increase his durability, and his durability is shaky. Now, you can give him stat boosters, and he's probably the best recipient of them, but I think without specifically other stuff and just looking at him for what stat boosters and swords without taking into account warp, because you can warp anyone, I'd say he's not an S tier unit because he's not going to, like, carry. Like, he's not like these units where you can kind of just throw them in or have such a massive utility that they're essential. He's just kind of like, you can have him kill units, but he's not like a unit you throw into an army and have him, like, into a group and have him survive, because he can die. He can die. Like, if he gets hit, like, he gets hit a couple times, he's just dead. So I think it puts him down to A, but he's a very solid A. He's like a very high A. Almost done. And then Hagaru. Yeah, Hagaru's F tier. Probably the worst unit in the game along with Rina. Hagaru joins at chapter 34, at chapter 34, as another tank, so same class as Tom. His base stats are weird. They're meh for that time. His physical bulk is really good, 36 HP, 17 defense. His strength is meh, 13. His skill is okay at 12. His speed is bad at 9. His luck is bad at 4. His magic is non-existent. His mastery is bad at 7. And he's stuck with 3 move because he's the tank class. Even though it says he's an artilleryman and not a wood shooter like Tom, they're the same fucking class. I don't know why it says they're different classes. He comes with Adept and Paragon. Paragon is nice because it allows him to level fast if you want to use him. Adept is nice for just proccing. It helps his combat a little bit. He gets Big Shield at 18, which he can very easily get if you use him because it only takes 2 levels, and he has Paragon. His growth rates are actually really good, but they don't matter because it doesn't matter. Wood Shooter is one of the worst classes in the game. Arguably the worst class in the game. And there's just no point in fielding him. You already have an army of really good units at this point. So, like, why would you field Hagaru? Like, there's no point. Like, even, like, I'd say if you wanted to use him, he's better than all the other F units, because at least he has good growth rates, and he can eventually start, like, he can eventually maybe do stuff, but, like, 3 move just is abysmal, dude. 3 move means he's just always lagging behind, and he can never change that. So he's just lagging behind in every single map, and it's just, like, he gets one-rounded by most mages, so, like, his bulk doesn't matter, because his speed is bad, and his mastery means he's not using, and his base mastery means he's not using any of the good bows at late game. He's using basically an iron bow and a bow gun, which just, at that stage, with those stats, it's not worth it. The only one who can use those is, like, Raquel at that stage, and, like, he's not fucking Raquel, so yeah, he's one of the worst units in the game. If he joined earlier, like mid-game, I'd say maybe he could be D tier. Like, maybe D tier with his growth rates. But, like, nah, he's F tier. Alright. Verna's C. Verna is a Pegasus Knight that joins a chapter after chapter 36. After chapter 36. No, joins. No. No, she actually joins at chapter 36, my bad. Her base stats are excellent for a Pegasus Knight. Her base stats are really good for her join time. Or, join time. Her join time, she joins with 5 chapters left to go in the whole game. But she only gets to go to 4 of them, because one of them is at Holmes's side, and she can never join Holmes's side. Her base stats are good. They're end game worthy. Except for her bulk. 8 defense is pretty low at that point, but 12 strength, 15 magic, 13 skill, 17 speed, 13 luck. Her base stats are good. She only has Kanto and Anti-Evil, but that's good enough for the monsters. She comes with the Salia Lance, which is a really good lance that has the Brave effect and has really good might. Her growth rates are decent for a Pegasus Knight. Her strength is shaky, but she comes with 12 base. The problem with Verna is her join time and how it plays out with the rest of the game. Verna joins on the final outdoor chapter of the game. In a class where there's only 2 promotion items for that class in the entire game, and most likely you have already used those 2 on either her 2 sisters or one of her sisters and Sasha. So she can't promote, and every chapter past her joining chapter is indoors, which means she suffers huge stat penalties and can't even use the really good lance, and she can't even use the Salia Lance, the super broken lance she joins with. So she basically has one chapter where she's decent, and then she's just and then unless you promote her with an item, which means you're not using either Martel or Frau, or which means you're not fully promoting Sasha, Martel, or Frau, which are better units. And then she's just okay. She's just a meh unit that's not actually really that good, because she also takes stat penalties indoors as Draco Knight. It's just not as severe because she has higher stats. But yeah, I'd say that really makes her suffer as a unit. If she joined earlier, or if there were more Dragon Flutes, I would say she's probably a B tier, a low B. But because of how rare Dragon Flutes are, and and when she joins in the game with outdoor and indoor maps and mounting, she's C. Alright. Final 3 characters. So all 3 of these final characters join in the final map. So I can only rate them based on how they do in the final map. Alfred, Alright, I'll start with Tien Senate. Tien Senate, I'm just gonna put as S tier. They join in the final map. They're only usable for one map. They're good in that final map. They're needed for the final boss. S tier. You need them to beat the game, so they can take hits from enemies. They only have their sword weapons, which are both really good weapons that basically kill everything. They're really good. There's no point in giving them other weapons. You can if you want to, but it's a pain and there's no point. They're also needed for the final boss, so they're only available for one chapter, and they do well in that chapter. I don't really know how to rate them anything else. Alfred. Um, eh, he's B. He does have warp, which normally would make him S tier. The problem is, and he does come with a door key, which is needed to do the final chapter, but the problem is he can very easily die in the final chapter. Like, I warped him to kill a Dark Knight to get a door key, and then a Draco zombie just immediately walked over to him and one-shot him. I'm assuming if you don't get horribly unlucky, he's much better, but I think because he can just get, like, fucking decked like that in the final chapter, where that is the only chapter where he joins, I think he has to be B. I think what saves him is magic and warp, but, like, his durability isn't that great. His durability is actually pretty nice, but, like, he comes with wind and tornado. Like, he doesn't come with anything good. And, like, if you're unlucky like me, he just gets one shot. So I think, like, and he's also not required in any capacity. Like, I used it for one turn, he got immediately decked, and nothing happened. Nothing changed. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, he's B. I think he's good for that chapter. I just don't think, like, only one chapter, and he's not required, so yeah. So yeah, that's the tier list. Well, let me see if I can get the whole thing in there. Hold on, let me see if I can... Oh my god, that's the wrong thing. Well, let me zoom it out. What? Oh, come on. Oh, god damn it. Oh, god damn it. Alright. Oh, okay. Alright. There we go. Basically got it. So that's the whole tier list. All the playable characters ranked according to my opinion. Overall, this is just my opinion. Don't take this for fact or anything. This is just for a fun thing I wanted to do after I beat the game. Overall, I think Tear Ring Saga is a fairly not that hard of a Fire Emblem-esque game. So you can basically use pretty much everyone in, like, I think C and above, and even most, like, D and like, you can use pretty much everyone D and above, and, like, they'll be perfectly serviceable. I think the ones in F you're gonna really struggle with, and are the only truly, like, bad units in this game. But, like, everyone else is at least, like, and then the S tier units are just carries. But, like, yeah. It is 3:17 in the morning, so I'm gonna go to bed. I hope you guys enjoyed this, like, 3 hour and 48 fucking minute tier list that I did, because I talked too much. And, yeah, peace.